to our show. Welcome to our show. It's a good show. Big, big shoe. It's really huge. Welcome to our show. Welcome to our show. It's a good show.
Hi, I'm Kevin Vonesper, the director of The Life and Slimes of Dukey, Flyswatter, and Haunted Garage, and you are listening to Talkin Troma with Zack Vines. Surf Nazis must die!
Big, big shoe. It's really huge. Welcome to the show.
Good morning, Tromaville, and welcome to episode 18 of Talkin Troma with your host, me, Zack Vines. The show where me and a special guest see who rules the beaches by watching a Troma movie and then pairing it with a non-Troma title for a fantasy double feature. But first, let me introduce my guest. He is a musician and filmmaker. He's currently in the Indiegogo stage for his documentary, The Life and Slimes of Dukey Flyswatter in Haunted Garage. Let me introduce to you, Kevin Vonesper.
Bah, what's up?
What's up? For those out there listening who aren't familiar,
that's a lot of information.
Who aren't familiar on who Dukey Flyswatter is, he's going to be a major part of this episode. Give a quick TLDR before we really dig into Dukey. What's the on the street elevator pitch of who Dukey Flyswatter is?
You know, it's funny because this is a question I ask in all my interviews. I call it the elevator pitch. Dukey Flyswatter is an LA Hollywood weirdo horror legend and splatter rock pioneer that you've never heard of.
Yes.
Until now.
Until now.
Or you may have seen him, but you didn't know it until we pointed out to you tonight.
Exactly. Well, I like to always start to show off knowing how you got into Troma movies. Like, what was your first Troma experiences?
That's a good question because I did start watching movies that were probably not for my age range at the time. You know, and honestly, I can't remember exactly, but it probably was the movie we're going to talk about tonight, Surf Nazis Must Die, just because I was into Haunted Garage at a very young age, and I was collecting his movies, and could have been that one. I don't know. Troma's kind of just always been a part of my life in some way, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, I met Lloyd Kaufman for the first time when I was in high school, so I was probably watching his movies in middle school.
Tell us about that. Why'd you meet Lloyd in high school?
It was at a Chiller convention in New Jersey. It wasn't anything too special, but I got my picture taken with him. I was wearing a Haunted Garage shirt. I do have a picture of him, but it's not printed out. But what I do have is a picture from that day with Brink Stevens.
Oh, nice.
And you can see I'm wearing my Haunted Garage shirt. So,
nice.
You know, many connections. You could say I'm just doing all the things I used to always do, but now I'm just doing it at a better and bigger scale.
And Brink Stevens, she's in a few Dukey movies, but probably like the most famous of those ones would be like Nightmare Sisters,
featuring Haunted Garage doing a soundtrack, and Dukey as someone who gets his head ripped off in the first scene, filmed just days after Sorority Babe and the Slimeball Bolorama, which is the other classic with the 3 Scream Queens, and Dukey is the voice of the imp.
And if you're wondering what the Brink Stevens Troma connection is she is in 2 Troma movies called Mommy and Mommy 2, which were shot on video, maybe made for TV. Patty McCormick, just Psycho Mommy. They're credited as sort of being like follow-ups to The Bad Seed. So
who directed those?
I don't remember off the top of
Well,
my
it wasn't
head.
Fred Olin Ray.
No, the Fred Olin Ray only, which we'll get to, but he only did one
Okay.
Troma movie. So
Well, we'll get to it when we
yeah.
get to it.
When I was talking to you, it was cool because I found out like you've played in some punk bands and stuff, such as the Radioactive Chicken Heads.
I woke up as a chicken head one day. That's all I can say about it.
They and they did the theme song for my movie Adam the Amazing Zombie Killer, which we went out to LA to film the music video for that, and Dukey Flyswatter was kind enough to show up and be in the music video. So I got to direct Dukey for like 1 second.
In character from his Undead Kennedys band, his Dead Kennedys tribute as zombies. Yes.
And then
I watched your movie on Troma Now the other night.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'll pay you
plug Troma Now.
I'll pay you for saying that when we get off the
Yes, I'm getting one more contribution.
Awesome. I hope you dug it. It's very Troma-esque, I think. So.
I loved all the death scenes the most. Those are my favorite parts.
Awesome. Thank you. Well, tell me more about some of these other bands that you've played in, because they all seem to be in, along with Dukey's band Haunted Garage. There's, I feel like, a pretty unique to LA scene out there of like very theatrical costumed bands that you've had dabbled in quite a few of them.
Which is funny because I live in New York and always have. Well, let me go all the way back to the beginning when I was a very young, probably 9 or 8, maybe year olds in the, let's say 1992, I discovered green Jello.
Yes.
We all know green Jello, right? From the Three Little Pigs song is their big claim to fame. Or as a lot of people remember them from the Maximum Carnage video game. They did the soundtrack, first band on a video game soundtrack. These guys were like my first love post, Nirvana as a preteen boy. And little did I know, but at the time I was watching Dukey Flyswatter turn into the Shit Man in the Misadventures of Shit Man video.
Got to, Shit Man.
Hell yeah. Alongside some guy named Danny Carey, who played in Green Jello at the time, but now he's in some band called Tool. You might have heard of them. They used to open for Haunted Garage, by the way, before they were #1 on the Billboard charts. So that's how it all started. And then I was just, I loved my green Jello. And then the next band I got into was Gwar. This is like, I'm still like 9 years old, probably getting into Gwar. This is when Gwar had only 4 albums out, guys. Now they have like 16. This was like baby early. Gwar, as far as I thought they had a lot, but compared to green Jello,
Well, it's kind of funny that you bring up green Jello. So like when I was working on Poultry Guys, we shot that in Buffalo, New York.
Yeah, the origins of green Jello.
And I had no idea. And we were driving somewhere, and then one of the local guys, John Carius, who plays the peeper in Poultry Guys, he's like, hey, you see that sign? And it said Skajackwater. And he's that's based on Green Jelly wrote that Flight of the Skajackwater song. On that
Skajackwater right there.
So it's like, oh cool, I had no idea.
Yes. Green Jello started in Buffalo, New York in 1981, before I was even born. So they predate any of these bands, actually.
They're fun, and it's cool. They're still going because they just had that DVD put out by Vinegar Syndrome.
Oh, I have it over there. I can't reach it, but I have it. If I use my Jedi mind trick. Yeah. Well, quickly, I'll say the next band I got into was Haunted Garage, because once you find Gwar and Green Jello, there it is. Yeah, the CD. Yeah, this was only released in Europe on vinyl, which is, and look, I even have it on cassette.
Nice.
Yeah, I don't have the long box, but I know there was one of those. When I was very young, I discovered the Chicken Heads via Green Jello, and I started talking to and tape trading like bootlegs with Carrot Top. This is like, I was like in high school at the time, maybe even younger. We would take, he would send me Chicken Heads tapes and Gwar stuff and Haunted Garage stuff. And so when Green Jello finally went on tour again in 2008, because they had only toured once in the 90s, I met up with them and I met them and I said, if you ever need a bass player, call me up. And just so happens they needed a bass player. And one day I woke up as a chicken head and I was living in a bus with Green Jello, the Radioactive Chicken Heads, and Rosemary's Billy Goat. And I was suddenly a part of all three of those bands.
That's
So
awesome.
a New York costume metal fanatic, joined some of my favorite bands like overnight and toured the country with them.
That's awesome. I want to throw a quick plug for my buddy's band Bolognium.
Polonium.
They did a song for Adam, Rock and Bowl and all that. But on their new album, they have Carrot Top from the Chicken Heads doing some guest vocals
Great.
on one of the songs. So
hell yeah.
Yeah.
And you can hear Dukey Flyswatter on their newest album, Tales from the Coop.
Yeah, he's Dr. von Kluckenstein.
That's correct. Right. And what's so funny about that character is, this is some insider knowledge, but when I was on tour, I watched Bill Manspeaker from Green Jello pick out some odd and ends costume pieces from his, collection.
Yeah.
And create that character backstage. And he just walked on stage one day introducing the Chicken Heads as their creator, Baron von Kluckenstein. And I have it all on video. That's going to be another documentary, my 150 tapes from touring with Green Jello. But yeah, and then suddenly Dukey Flyswatter is in the role and interacting with Dr. Demento in music videos.
It's so surreal to see like kind of all the stuff I grew up watching like just mold together in the Radioactive Chicken Heads videos.
Right? Yeah.
And like I introduced my kids to the Chicken Heads because
they're kid friendly and unlike Haunted Garage.
Right. Yeah, Haunted Garage not so much, which maybe in a couple years when they're like 8 or 9.
Yeah, that's about when I started it. Yeah.
Exactly. But the Chicken Heads, they're just like a fun, like kind of just ska punk band. I think everybody should check them out. And their music videos are so colorful.
I can't say enough about the Chicken Heads. I love the Chicken Heads.
And so how did...
Oh, I have to ask very quickly.
Yeah.
About your movie. Was it inspired at all by Sorority Babes in the Slime Pole Bolorama?
So my movie Adam the Amazing Zombie Killer is
available on Troma now.
Yes. Now. It's a bowling horror comedy. I had seen Sorority Babes, but I knew there wasn't a lot of bowling horror movies.
That's true.
I purposely...
I don't know of any others, actually.
There's a couple. There's one called Gutter Balls, which is
pretty
like a
good
bowling slasher movie, and another one called Zombies, which is zombies in a bowling alley, which I had no idea that thing even existed until our movie came out. But
Gotcha.
I knew of Sorority Babes. I purposely didn't watch it while I was writing or making the movie because I didn't want to steal anything. But I watched it after, and it's different.
Yeah, I didn't think you did steal anything, but I was just wondering, the bowling alley connection.
But it was always there in the back of my head when like if ever playing like at like New Beverly or something, which it never was a shot on video, but if it ever was, to do a double feature with Sorority Babes would be a dream come true.
Maybe when the sequel's supposed to come out, if that's still happening.
Adam 2 Electric Boogaloo.
Oh, I meant Sorority Babes, but your movie too.
Well, we'll do the sequel for the double for both of the sequels.
There you go.
But that Sorority Babes is a lot of fun. It's it's a good one. And Dukey
it's a real
plays
dumb
like
movie.
like a imp, right?
He's
like
the voice
genie.
of the imp.
Yeah.
Yep. Can't make this shit up.
How did you get into filmmaking from music into filmmaking?
I was always into video editing. I was the first person in my high school to take video class 4 years in a row, and I made a little short there called The Night of the Living Dustbuster. It's terrible. Don't ask me for it. Maybe I'll remake it one day, but really, I don't really make films, but I have been a professional videographer and editor and photographer for the past 15 or so years, because it turns out it's really hard to make money playing music. So professionally, I went the other direction, although I still do music as well. And for 15 something years, I lived in New York City and hustled my ass off as a video editor. And when the pandemic hit, I kind of didn't have any jobs anymore because they were all filming concerts and parties and generally being around people, right? And so thought it was a good time to start an internal project. And what would the perfect marriage of my professional life and my passions? And that would be the life and slimes of Dukey, Flyswatter, and Haunted Garage.
Mr. Dukey Flyswatter and
If you took 80s slasher movies and put it in a blender with metal and punk rock, you're gonna get Haunted Garage.
Dukey and his crew were almost like making horror movies, horror punk.
But the gag is, you're in the splash zone.
there was this real fervor at the time about shock rock and how bad it was for the kids.
I look over and I see Dukey with his arms on fire.
The flashes from the rear end.
He got brain surgery live on stage.
That was the raw stuff.
You walk out of there feeling like you've maybe left the planet for a little while.
Their legacy is they were unique.
They did things that weren't being done, and they did things that were outside of people's comfort zones.
Dukey was always just ahead of his time on that.
But it really rocked hard. I mean, he had really good musicians in the band.
We didn't want it to be only this deep. We wanted it to be this deep.
It's Haunted Garage. That's the whole point of taking things too far.
He's an icon of the underground exploitational genre.
Punk rock god of Hollywood.
G.G. Allen, but fun.
He's like a friendly vampire.
He was LA's Peter Lorre.
You need somebody in a movie, that's the guy that you want.
He puts everything he's got into it. He made his whole life his art.
I think that the whole world should know about it.
The life and slimes of Dukey, Flyswatter, and Haunted Garage. Indiegogo campaign out now. DukeyDoc.com. DukeyDoc.com.
So you hit me up on Instagram and you said, hey, I would be interested on coming on your show. I'm making this Dukey Flyswatter documentary. And right there, I was sold. I was like, somebody's making a documentary on Dukey Flyswatter.
I knew you would like it.
I like knowing him from, being introduced by the Chicken Heads, and then them telling me about Haunted Garage.
You're part of the legacy.
It's kind of crazy. Like, I was geeking out in my head when we directed him for like 1.5 seconds.
Yeah.
On set. He shows up and we're like, okay, act like you're talking on a cell phone. Perfect.
Oh,
now go.
I heard there's some, we can't hear what he's saying, but I heard it was pretty funny.
Yeah, it was.
Do you remember what he was talking about?
I'm trying to think.
Maybe that was an insider from the Carrot Top.
It probably was funny. Like he was being pretty funny because we were all laughing offset, but we had such we had a flight to catch back to Denver. So, and Dukey was pretty early in the day and we had tons left to shoot. So I remember we're like, all right, let's shoot this. We bought a bunch of lights at Home Depot on my credit card. And then we had one of my friends return them at the end of the day saying we didn't actually need them. So we could get all our money back.
That's DIY filmmaking right there.
That's one of the tricks. If you have a credit card, buy your lights at Home Depot at the beginning of the day. And at the end of the day, return them. You'll get your money back, but you already got to use the lights. And it's Home Depot, so who cares? They're major
life hacks here on Talkin Troma.
I'll have to look in my archives and see if I can find the footage.
Oh yeah, that would be great.
If I can find that footage, I'll send it to you, and maybe you can use it in the documentary.
Yes, that would love
if
that.
If it still exists. I'm
yeah,
sure.
I know. And that's part of my goal in this, is to dig all this stuff out of in your case, hard drives, but mostly people's closets and garages and storages for all this stuff that would be otherwise lost to time.
Well, it's kind of funny because I'm pretty sure we shot, because this is early enough in the HD days that we didn't have access to an HD camera. So I think we shot that on mini DV.
Well, I can convert those if you need me to.
Let me look around. I will find. I'm sure I save everything. So yeah, I'm sure I have the.
If you're a filmmaker, you know to save everything.
Yeah, but so we shot super fast. We're like, all right, Dukey, go get changed. And he came back in his zombie makeup, and we're like, all right, be a zombie. And I was like, man, that's fucking Mangla in our music video. How rad is that?
Well, what a good segue that is.
Yeah. Well, I want to talk more about this documentary.
Okay.
So
going back.
Like, what made you want to do Dukey Flyswatter? Because it is something not a lot of people have ever, been exposed to.
Yes, well, that is exactly why I want to do it, because I need to expose the world to Dukey Flyswatter. It's this film is not really for the people who already know, because if you already know, you're probably already a part of this thing. This is for the people who don't know about Dukey Flyswatter and Haunted Garage, and it's gonna blow your fucking mind. This is, and people ask me, why would you make a documentary about someone that I've never heard of? I'm like, well, you never heard of the Tiger King either, and you watched how many hours of that shit?
Yeah.
So I'm calling this well, I'll mend it for this show. I'll say the Tiger King of Troma now. I usually say Shutter, but for this episode,
Exactly.
Yeah, so this is for you. Like, if you've definitely seen this guy, even if you are my mother, like, you have watched The Bodyguard and he's an extra in The Bodyguard. So subliminally, you've seen Dukey Flyswatter before. If you've seen the serial killer video from Green Jello, you've seen Dukey Flyswatter. If you've seen any of these B horror movies that we're talking about, you might not know it, but you've seen Dukey Flyswatter. And the band, they were probably arguably the most unique, I don't know, they were part of the unique culture of all these weird bands doing things at the same time, like Green Jello and Guar, and they all started separately, but they found each other because of their similarities. But the thing about Haunted Garage is not only were they an amazing show, which was a little bit scarier than Guar, just because they weren't characters, they were being themselves, and it was just presented as a freak show. Like, you don't know if you're gonna get the fake blood, or if you're gonna watch Dukey pierce himself and you're gonna see some real blood. You don't know.
Yeah.
So and then when that chainsaw starts on stage, that's very shocking in a enclosed space, a small club. People have never really seen anything like that before. Somebody made a documentary about Green Jello and somebody made a documentary about Guar, so I'll take the Haunted Garage one.
I mean, I feel like
that's my joke.
With Dukey, though, it seems like there's a lot more levels than you could have with like a Green Jello documentary, because his film
I was always
career,
most fascinated about them. As much as I love all those bands, and I do, trust me, that's my Guar cave over there. That's a whole nother podcast.
Yeah,
but
I have a Scumdog's Tapestry that's signed by Jizmac and Odorous.
Nice.
So doing Blood on Poultrygeist, I was like, I just got to make this feel like a Guar movie. So,
yeah, and I hear Dave Brockie almost played the Toxic Avenger once.
I'm really trying hard to find somebody at Troma just to see his audition tape, but he was like,
one?
Yeah, so he auditioned for the Toxic Avenger and Citizen Toxie.
Yes.
And but I think it was like when he was going through some court-ordered rehab, so he just couldn't swing like it. That. But
it was some bullshit. It wasn't anything personal.
Yeah, it's too bad though. In some version of the multiverse, Odorous Urungus is the Toxic Avenger, and that's cool.
He kind of those characters are very similar in ways.
Yeah,
they're big dumb monsters,
And another thing I always felt about Haunted Garage is, in a way, they kind of remind me of the band Anvil, where they're super influential on these huge bands like Metallica. Anvil was for Metallica and like Megadeth, and Haunted Garage was for like Guar and Green Jello.
That's what I thought going into this. I would say, from my discovery of talking to everybody, they should be recognized as being on the forefront of shock entertainment and like horror show entertainment. They didn't necessarily influence these people who already had these concepts in their mind already, but they were definitely doing it first, and they should be recognized for it. And unlike Anvil, who kind of had an upswing with the this is kind of just a comedy of errors. This is a story of a band that didn't make it when they really should have, and all their peers did. The Guar made it, Green Jello made it, Tool made it, White Zombie made it, L7, all these bands that used to open for them. If they had lasted one more year, I think they would have done it. But it was just a comedy of errors. So this is kind of the anti-story. And I think this could expose Haunted Garage and Dukey Flyswatter to more people than was ever possible in the past because of the viral internet and streaming.
One thing I always wanted to know was, so
I'll tell you.
You see Dukey credited as Michael Sonny quite a
Yes.
bit, and which is his
Good job on the pronunciation.
I was totally looking at it, trying to figure out how to say it, and then I heard somebody in a different interview
It's easy
say
to,
it correctly.
yeah, that's how I knew it. I've actually never heard him say his own name, his real name.
So where did the name Dukey Flyswatter come from?
Yeah, well, that came from, so the original version of Haunted Garage. See, I'm going to show the back of Possession Park vinyl. This is the classic lineup that we all know. But except for Dukey, these are actually all not original members of Haunted Garage. They started in 1985 as a band that they were more of like a garagey bluesy band. They weren't really punk rock at all. And they would play covers of bad movie theme songs. So they would play like The Green Slime and Mothra and the theme from Satan's Sadists, which much later in the 2010s, Glenn Danzig would later cover. So
that's awesome.
But anyways, yeah,
and that's a movie that Troma put out at one point, was Satan's Sadists. So
oh really? Is it on Troma now?
No, so that movie is directed by Al Admonson, and
yeah, I've actually never seen it, and I'm like I'm a terrible fan for not having seen it.
It's just like a fun like biker movie.
Yeah.
But Troma put that out, I want to say in the late 90s on DVD. They got the rights to all of Al Admonson's movies and they put it out, but they since don't have the rights anymore. But there's a really good Al Admonson
because I might need the rights to that song at some point.
There's a good box set though. I think maybe Severin put it out.
Okay. I need to get that.
All Admonson movies.
Gotcha. Right. So the name Dukey Flyswatter came from the original incarnation of Haunted Garage when they wanted to go by, silly monikers, and Dukey wanted to be like, he was influenced by Escape from New York, the Duke. Who was that? Isaac Hayes?
Oh, yes.
Right? He was like, that's the Duke of New York. I want to be the Duke of LA. And his band member said, yeah, but people are just going to call you Dukey. And he's like, well, not if I call myself Dukey first. Then the other band member walks in and he says, what would be a good name to pair with Dukey? And he just said Flyswatter. And thus he became Dukey Flyswatter from then on. This was probably in 1986 or so. Maybe awesome. 1985.
How would you describe Haunted Garage's sound?
Well, like I said, the original stuff, which for the first time you can hear on my Indiegogo campaign, which I'm sure we'll get into later. They were very bluesy, like kind of like a loungy garage band. But by the time any of the Haunted Garage that you would ever have heard from the late 80s and the early 90s, they had kicked it up a bunch. They had discovered the Misfits and they kicked it up a whole ton. So it's just very high energy, not even totally heavy metal, not totally punk rock, but just like really high energy, hard rock that tinges on both of those other genres. Wild guitar solos, crazy bass player. I mean, the musicians are top of the fucking line. That's what I want to definitely get across. As much as you see crazy shit happening on stage, the musicians were solid and they made some really great songs, just like really good hooks, not very screamy, just kind of sleazy, I guess, in a way.
Yeah.
But not I mean, they shared the Sunset Strip with the hair bands, but they were a little bit more in the gutter, so to speak.
Yeah.
Is that a good accurate description?
I would say so.
The revival band that came back in 2013, who did this album, Slender Man, that came out last year. These guys, the Revival guys, credit to them. They really played up the more like chunky heavy metal aspects of it.
Yeah, they definitely got a little more just like kind of melty guitar solos in the new version. But it's still just as fun as like lyrically.
Oh yeah, it's
all that.
all fun. From 1985 to 2021, it's all good.
I was bummed that I missed the last Haunted Garage show, and I don't want to. I'm sure you're covering it in the documentary with the brain surgery.
Oh, that was not the last.
Oh, that wasn't the last one.
No, while I was in LA last summer, I convinced them to do one last show at Green Jello Studios, where I don't know if you know about this, but Bill has converted his living room into a full multicam production studio, and he does this 3-hour free YouTube web streaming show every Saturday. It's actually on right now, WTF-TV.com. He's been doing it for over a year every night, and I convinced Haunted Garage while I was in town to do one final performance, and it was streamed live on the internet. Full circle back with the Green Jello, and just so happens the other featured band that they double booked for that night was the Dwarves. So it was awesome. It was insane because that room probably only fits 20 people comfortably. So you could imagine.
That's crazy. Yeah, one of the crazier like live shows I've ever been to was the Dwarves. They just destroyed all their equipment on stage. And
you saw one of those old school Dwarf shows.
Yeah, they just
they're a little bit more professional these days, but
a little bit. Although as professional as the Dwarves could ever be.
Well, they can actually be very professional. They are super tight, and like I gotta defend their studio output is top notch, like the best kind of production.
Oh yeah.
The guy who used to produce their records and kind of taught Blag to do it himself is the guy who does like Smash Mouth and on all those hits. It's like they really, they use Josh Freese as a studio drummer. Like they're actually very professional, but just in the technical side, on the subject matter side, it's extremely unprofessional.
Yeah.
As a presentation though, they don't do the smashing instruments and starting fights so much anymore because you know what, they wouldn't get paid for their show anymore if they did that. Back then it didn't really matter. They were probably playing for beer money anyways.
They're so much fun. If another one of those bands, if anybody gets a chance to see the Dwarves, you got to.
Yeah, definitely. I catch them every time I can, and it was awesome because Blag from the Dwarves was actually my first interview that I did for the documentary, because he came to play in New York doing his acoustic guitar thing, Ronnie Champagne he calls it, and then it just so happens that I would see him again at the last Haunted Garage show. We didn't even plan that. But they played together a very infamous show back in 1991. The Dwarves actually played the release party for this album, Possession Park. And during that show, they had brought some extra lights and stuff to spruce it up. And it just got way too hot on stage, I guess. There's conflicting reports whether it was exhaustion or electric shock, but Johnny Ho, the guitar player of Haunted Garage, passed out on stage and had to be dragged off stage. The show ended and they had to get the paramedics to come, and the paramedics show up and they see, an audience drenched in blood and this naked band on stage, and they're like, oh my God. And they're like, no, the emergency's upstairs.
Yeah, no.
And of course, the naked band was the Dwarves.
He who cannot be named.
That's right. Well, I think they all used to be more naked back then too. Usually their bass player is Nick Oliveri, who everyone knows from, Queens of the Stone Age and stuff like that. But I guess he was unavailable for this show at Green Jelly Studios with Haunted Garage this past summer. So they actually had their original bass player playing, and that was just like even better for me as a fan. He wrote all those classic songs with him,
That's so cool.
Yeah, I was like a little bummed I didn't get to meet Nick Oliveri, but fuck that. I saw the original, like half of the original Dwarves playing in front of me.
That's so fun.
Yes.
And so you have Indiegogo going right now for
Indie Gorgor
Indie Gorg. I like
campaign, emphasis on pain.
Going for Haunted Garage, your Haunted Garage documentary.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about that. Like, what are you trying to? How far are you trying to go?
To Cleveland.
All
I
right.
stole that joke from Guar. Yes, I have an Indie Gorgor campaign going on for the life of and slimes of Dukey, Flyswatter, and Haunted Garage. I basically have self-funded this all myself so far, and I have over 40 interviews. I've archived probably at least 100 tapes, and I've kind of hit my limit on budget because I am a broke New York artist, and this is a grassroots DIY passion project. Nobody's backing me from the corporate side or anything. In even the band, like I have their full cooperation with this, but it is an independent project that I've started just by myself. I have a couple co-producers, but I'm doing all the heavy lifting myself, editing, shooting, everything. And I know this is going to take some money to finish, including like licensing clips and just lawyers doing contracts is like the most expensive thing for me so far. That was more expensive than traveling, you know?
Yeah.
So yes, please help me out. I'm not, my goal for this campaign is 10,000, but beyond would be great. I am going to decide what I can do with it as soon as I know how much I will be getting, and yeah, please just support. I got some cool perks if you're a Haunted Garage fan. A lot of people just want to thank you in the credits. That's been the most popular one so far. I just got some stickers, $5. I'll send you a sticker. How cool is that? From riotstickers.com. And if you're really broke, can't even spend $5, just share it, man. Like one of your friends is gonna dig this stuff.
Yeah,
you could do that for free. Support independent cinema.
Don't give up the fight for truly independent cinema.
That's right. Yes.
Well, and
Lloyd Kaufman will be in this documentary.
It's kind of funny. So we've been talking about recording for a while now.
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh, I'm going to be recording with Lloyd soon. And I was like, well, let's wait for that. It's like, oh, it got pushed back.
Postponed twice.
And the second time it's because he had COVID. So
yeah, the day he caught COVID, I imagine, or got tested positive for it, was the day we were going to interview him.
So yeah, we're just
the day before or something like that.
We're just like, fuck it. We'll record our episode now.
But just so you know, when Lloyd's better, like he's in New York, I can just drive right up to Tromaville Studios and we will be getting that interview to talk about, drum roll please. Do you want to do it?
Well, actually, first I want to talk about one of the perks that you are giving me part of exclusive to.
Oh, right. Yes, let's talk about that. That's a perfect segue.
Yes. So you were like, hey, I have an exclusive for you. Would you be interested in playing part of this Haunted Garage song? I want you to tell.
Sure. Over the I don't know, probably almost a year ago now, Dukey sent me his archive of tapes in 2 gigantic boxes. There was just probably at least 50 to 100 VHS tapes, cassettes. There was a beta tape that I had to get special service transferred for me. All sorts of stuff going back to the 1985 and even a couple things from before that. And these are, unless you were insider with the group at the time, like nobody has ever heard this stuff. Demos from all different lineups of the band, including the very original. And one of the gems I found was an acoustic. It's only acoustic demo on. It sounds like it was just taped on a tape recorder, sitting on a table, old school 80s style, of a song called Masterwave. Are we ready to get canceled tonight? Because we're gonna get canceled tonight. It's a song written for Surf Nazis Must Die, in which Dukey Flyswatter is a main character.
Yes.
It never got used, but this and many other treasures and other songs they wrote for movies that we'll get into later have been found, and also including the one they did get in the actual movie, their soundtrack for Nightmare Sisters, which has never been released, which is just insane to me. I found, I'm going to assume is the master cassette mixdown from the session. And that is also available. There's different tiers of demo packages on the Indiegogo Gorgor campaign. And man, like, this is, even if you're just into the horror side of this whole thing, these are unheard gems.
Yeah. And when I heard you sent me the song, and when I heard it, the demo reminded me a lot of like G.G. Allen's Carmelita that he played. Just, you could tell
G.G. Allen but fun is what Robbie Rist calls Dukey Flyswatter. Robbie Rist from the Undead Kennedys, and also Michelangelo from the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movies.
That's amazing. Well, I think we should play a clip of Master Wave.
1, 2, 3, 4. Surf's up! Mike Schnell! Oh, Daddy! Sing high! I'm not the rock side on my phone, the damn I'm on black and bumps and grubby punks. I'm a Superman who lost his swastikas and iron crosses dangle from my bag of trunks. I surf with Ruger Wellham to shoot the pipeline over fatherland. As I pave the way for the master wave, we cannot allow our ocean to do with suntan oceans.
So you said that was recorded in 1985, or when was that recorded?
Yeah, it's not dated, but the tapes that it is that I found it on are performances and recordings from 1985 or 1986. It's definitely one, in that era.
That's awesome.
The original Haunted Garage
was such a treat to hear, especially like you could picture Mangala playing that song around the campfire.
I am going to get into that once we finally get into the movie. There are some missed opportunities of this movie, and I want to point out all of them.
Sounds good. Well, I think into that, let's dive into Peter George's 1987 Surfsploitation, Nazi-sploitation, Blaxploitation classic, Surf Nazis Must Die.
Sometime in the near future, a major earthquake will lay waste to the entire California coastline. From out of the rubble will rise a menace far more terrifying than the death and destruction. Surf Nazis. Who rules the beaches? Who rules the surfers? The beautiful beaches, once the crown jewels of California, are now ruled by ruthless gangs. And the gangs are ruled by the Surf Nazis. Surf Nazis must die. Adolf. Ava. Mengele. Hook. Smeg. And the rest of their evil Reich. Something must be done to stop them because Surf Nazis must die. They're slaughtering the samurai surfers. They're devastating the designer wave. The beaches are no longer safe to hang around. Surf Nazis must die. Welcome to California, where the beaches have become battlefields and the waves are a war zone. Only one person is powerful enough, daring enough, brave enough to stop them. Only one person can ensure that Surf Nazis must die. She's tough.
I want to buy a gun. Keep talking white trash, but I'm
more interested in something that'll take the head off a honky at 20 paces.
She's dangerous. She's all woman. She's Leroy's mama. And as long as she's alive, the surf Nazis must die. First, there was the Road Warrior. Then there was the Terminator. Now comes an action film of relentless excitement. Lavishly produced by Robert Tennell. Stylishly directed by Peter George. Surf Nazis must die. Experience the passion of perverted romance. Know the evil of mankind's greatest villains. And taste the violent revenge.
Taste some of Mama's home cooking, Ada.
See the film that is creating a tidal wave of action all over the world. See Surf Nazis Must Die.
This is what Lloyd Kaufman has to say about Surf Nazis Must Die in his book, All I Need to Know About Filmmaking I Learned from the Toxic Avenger. One of the most beloved and indeed best Troma films by Peter George, director of Troma's Young Goodman Brown. It takes place in the near future where a major earthquake has destroyed the California coastline. Don't we New Yorkers wish? A black kid is killed by the surf Nazis and his big, fat, pistol-packing mama starts a war along the California beaches, taking revenge on every Nazi gut, throat, face, and crotch she can find. Too much, dude.
A film by the Institute.
I don't know what
whoever
that
they
means,
are. I don't know.
I remember the first time I watched the movie and I saw a film by the Institute. I was like, "Oh, that's cool."
I know, right? Like I expected, I would have expected to hear more from the Institute.
Right. I like, yeah, you know, the director, Peter George, he has one other Troma movie, the Young Goodman Brown, and it's a family film. I haven't seen it either, but
because it's a family film.
Right. Well, and I just don't think I realized that he made that movie until I was researching this. So now you need to see that.
Made?
A bunch of people from Surf Nazis went to work on Young Goodman Brown.
That makes sense.
In 1993.
So about 7 or 8 years after Surf Nazis.
So I wonder if that one also has an opening card, a film by the Institute.
Now I have to. Is it on Troma now?
That one, I don't believe so. So that movie was put
get
out.
on it. Everyone wants to see the movies by the Institute.
Yeah, there is a huge rabid Young Goodman Brown fan base.
That's right. Yeah, you heard it first.
Yeah, it was put out under their 50th Street Films banner, which was their family thing, just to kind of, you know, get other people's eyes on probably their most notable movie under the 50th Street banner was My Neighbor Totoro. They were the first company.
Wow, really?
Yeah, Troma was the first company in America to distribute that movie, and then Disney hijacked the film and threatened to sue Troma and had Mickey Mouse go sodomize Toxie. And
Mickey versus Toxie, that's a movie I want to see.
That's the film that Walt Zombie does not want you to watch, and Walt Disney plays a frozen Nazi in Surf Nazis Must Die. I have it on good authority. One thing I like to do is I like to see what other Troma stuff anybody in the cast happened to do on Surf Nazis. So Peter George did Young Goodman Brown. The producer, Robert Tennell, also worked on Young Goodman Brown, and he directed a segment in Grindsploitation. Also in Grindsploitation.
We will get, yeah. You want to just do it now?
Yeah, let's do it now.
Hamburger.
Hamburger the Rapist, directed by Caleb Emerson, who is on the Bloodsucking Freaks episode. And it's a teaser trailer, but Dukey plays Hamburger the Rapist.
Yeah, at CIA, Carl Cruz CIA.
Yeah, and CIA, everybody.
And Lloyd Kaufman is cut in, probably filmed in New York.
Most definitely.
Yeah.
A few of the other Troma connections I found was Dawn Wildsmith. She played Eva. She was a singer in Merchants of Death, and she was a fortune-telling client in Nerds of a Feather, and she played Selena in the Fred Olen Ray film Wizards of the Demon Sword.
Yes, of course. We will discuss more about her later for sure. She used to be married to Fred Olen Ray, so
that would explain why she's in a bunch of his movies.
From what I understand, Dukey introduced them.
Oh, that's awesome. Probably from around this time.
Yeah, well, I do have some history we'll get into.
Let's see. Helen Kelly. She plays Girl on the Beach. And she was in the Troma film Club Life and in Student Confidential.
Good for her. One of the few women in this film.
Right. And
there's another thing I'm going to talk about.
There's 3. Maybe?
There's like 3 women in this whole film, and not counting Mama Washington. I'm talking about beach babes and stuff.
In a beach movie, there is very few
not many beach babes.
Beach babes of either gender.
Yes, it's true. That's true. We have Jesus. I would say he's a beach bum.
And Adolf, he plays a medical examiner in Maniac Cop 2. Then a bunch of the sound people worked on Young Goodman Brown and Maniac Cop 2 and Club Life. And the most successful people in this film were on the sound crew of Surf Nazis.
I guess that makes sense.
Right.
It sounds great. This is a great sounding movie, guys.
There's
everything else about it. Let's see.
And then so yeah, let's kind of get into the movie. Different versions of the movie, I should say. So Troma always talked about having a director's cut that was longer.
That's just like a line that Lloyd says about a lot of films, though.
But it's so hard to say because there is from my vast collection of all the Troma stuff, there always is, maybe this DVD is slightly longer and this, but Troma's pretty notorious for not cataloging stuff correctly. So different versions get put out. Weird. But on the Troma Blu-ray, there's a podcast for the Projection Booth podcast.
Right. Which we both totally listened to on the Blu-ray, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, totally.
Not sped up on Spotify.
No, not at all.
I like the interview that they had with Peter George in there, and he talks about that there actually is no director's cut, even though the DVD and the Troma VHS are marketed that way.
Yeah,
he said he found some just extra shots that didn't have sound, and
what's up, sound department?
Right, yeah,
come on, guys,
those deleted scenes. So he recorded some commentary over those, and they put them as special here. Yeah, they're on actually the Troma releases, and even the VHS.
I don't have the VHS. That's one of my holes in my collection.
There's a few. I bet there is the Troma's collector's edition. Nice. VHS and Media Films. They did the very first United States VHS of the movie. I have a Australian VHX rental VHS, which is kind of fun.
That's cool. I don't know how I didn't get that one. I guess by the time I was collecting those movies, it was probably one of the early ones that they put out on DVD.
It was in their first run.
Yeah, that would make sense then, because this came out in like 1998, so that makes sense.
Yeah, that was in their first.
Which when I started this project and I was reviewing my materials, I discovered that this DVD did not work at all anymore. So I bought a replacement from Troma's website, and it's actually a different edition. So how about that?
I can tell you the difference between those editions on there is they have all of the same
one
stuff.
Of them works.
one of them's not scratched, but they don't have the rights for all the trailers that were on the first DVD. Some of those movies they don't have the rights.
Well, they don't work anymore if you have it.
So yeah, you can't even. But if you go to the trailer page, if it exists on that disc, they will have like red X's through some of the trailers, and which is pretty funny. Sometimes they just make the trailer page not even work.
Yeah,
those later editions.
And I just got that probably late last year, before I knew that this was even going to come out. This came out in February, so it just popped up out of nowhere.
And there's another Blu-ray. I don't have it.
The
but
European one, right?
Yeah, it's put out by 88 Films.
With the better cover. What is this cover, guys?
I'm not a fan of. You know what? Who has a good cover is
where is my dude with a machine gun on a surfboard that doesn't exist in the movie at all?
The cover
and the chainsaw going through the fucking surfboard.
I have a movie post, like a full-size movie poster for Surf Nazis in my
What a
living
great
room.
image. Should have been in the movie. Missed opportunity, guys. Number one.
I don't know if Peter George and them had the foresight of knowing how cool that imagery could be.
Right. Well, I don't think they had a lot of foresight for a lot of this.
But there's a good DVD version that's out there from Arrow Video. And they port over a lot of special features from the Troma discs, but they also have like a booklet.
Exclusive one?
Not on there, but when I was looking into it, and I'm mad that I didn't buy the 88 Films one yet. It's going to be in my collection soon. But there is a interview with the actor who plays Smeg on the 88 Films Blu-ray.
What an exclusive, guys!
I know. We got to hear what Smeg has to say.
That's right.
I do, so I could just be.
Let Smeg talk.
So, and have you picked up the Surf Nazis vinyl soundtrack?
No, I have not.
It's amazing. That's like
that. I love that song though.
It's just a fun vaporwave, score by John.
You know what it's missing though? Masterwave by Haunted Garage. Missed opportunity number 2.
Have you talked to Dukey about why they didn't use that song at all?
I asked him, and I don't think he gave me much insight into it.
He's like, I didn't even remember.
Yeah, probably something more like that. Yeah, exactly. It was an insignificant story, unfortunately. We really got to talk to Peter George about that.
Yeah, why they didn't use any.
Probably budget, because they'd have to put the band in a studio.
Well, it's kind of funny because listening to the interviews, which it's unfortunate that as far as recording this podcast, there's not a director's commentary for the movie.
What's up with that, Lloyd?
And it sounds like he wants to do one. So I might have to track him down and try to get him to record one anyways.
I'd love to get one from Dukey too, and maybe that's something I could do next summer, is get him to record some commentaries and release them.
That'd be a good Indiegogo
I know. Maybe
I would like to hear
I'll have another
Nightmare Sisters.
Me too, yeah.
Yeah, so and then originally the title of the movie was just called Surf Nazis. And in Lloyd's book, All I Need to Know About Filmmaking, he talks about why they changed the title.
Oh, I have that over there. It's out of my reach.
It's a good book.
It is a good book.
Written by James Gunn mostly. It talks about when they got the movie, they didn't want people to think that they were pro-Nazi. So he's like, we got to add the must die, which that's
probably a good idea.
Genius Troma things, because Surf Nazis Must Die is probably in the top 10 of the best sounding titles.
And I would say the only reason this movie gets talked about today.
I don't know. I love this movie, although
it's not a good movie. It's a legitimately pretty bad movie.
I don't know. I've seen a lot of bad movies, and this one doesn't even crack the seal of.
It's okay, but let's just say it is a movie that has a great title.
It does have. And it's funny, on the other podcast I was listening to about this, that's on the Troma disc. They say maybe it's to the movie's detriment that the title is as good as it is. Because
something like that, that's one way to put it.
The movie might not live up to the expectations of that title, or if you've seen other Lloyd movies,
it's not as outrageous.
But I feel like in 2022 that Surf Nazis could definitely grow a new set of legs, because it definitely plays like in the sort of A24 like kind of like slow
It says
slow
reboot. That's my final note on this movie.
It would be a fun reboot.
It's the perfect time. It's the perfect climate. Can you believe we're still battling Nazis in 2022?
Exactly. Well, real quick, I want to play an audio clip of Peter George talking about the idea and origins of the movie.
It started with I had an idea, which was that there would be a really tough ghetto grandmother who would take revenge on a gang who attacked her nursing home. And the original thing was sort of an inner city type of idea, the gang type of movie. And then I came across the idea of the gang being the surf Nazis, and that changed everything. The story went in a very different direction while still maintaining the basic revenge scenario. The idea about the surf Nazis came as I took up surfing. I just moved down to the beach, and I was harassed by some local surfers and this and that, and I heard the term surf Nazi, and I thought, yes, that's it. That would be the perfect adversary for a Mama Washington, a tough ghetto grandmother. The term surf Nazi has been around since perhaps the late 50s. It was sort of a weird cult thing that developed along with surf movies, and the way surfers looked back then, of course, was that real short, bristle, waxed hair. I mean, they kind of looked like Nazis back then. And the term surf Nazi was sort of a really die-hard surfer. That's what it described. The film takes this one step further in that these surfers are into the ideology, which is something that I don't think outside of maybe wearing some iron crosses or something that the old-timers were. About that time, I was making a road trip with John Ayer, a friend of mine who is a screenwriter, and we began talking about the idea on the road trip, and that was sort of the genesis of the script. About a week or two after we got back was when he began writing the script, and I laid out all the ideas I had about it and so forth, which was the putting these two ideas, one a very tough black grandmother versus this surf Nazi gang and all the things you could do with it. Then the idea, John came up with the idea of putting it into a post-apocalyptic era, which I'm very glad we did. It certainly is something that's been done in a number of other movies, but I believe that this movie might have been a little bit harder to stomach had it taken place in the present. So it added a certain fantasy element which gave you a distance from the rather terrifying reality of a neo-Nazi uprising.
Well, let's kind of go through the story of Surf Nazis Must Die. So it starts out with Adolf talking to a bunch of children on the beach with arguably one of the most iconic set of phrasing from the whole movie, like, goofy footers are an inferior breed, always lead with your left foot. Who rules the beaches? Surfers rule. Who rules the surfers? Surf Nazis. And then
I just wonder where these children are now and how they feel about this. That's like the only thing that was going through my mind. I'm like, these are grown ass adults with normal jobs, and here they are on screen with swastikas on their head. Although, here's a question I have. Some of the swastikas are going the wrong way. So like surf Nazis can't figure it out. Like they got to get organized here.
And there's extra points on the swastikas.
Yeah. Well,
my thought behind that was, how many like just DIY punk venues have you been to where there's some shithead who thinks he's a Nazi but is too drunk to remember how to paint the fucking swastika?
Well, that's the joke from the Gwar song, right?
Yeah, always to the left, never to the right.
Right. I mean, the surf Nazis could have taken a note from that, because their swastikas are just all over the place in this movie.
Yeah, extra legs and they're flip flopping. I was thinking the same thing when I was watching. It's like, what are those kids like thinking now? Like, especially like in the last like couple years or so, where they're like, oh yeah, I'm in a movie, and then like they're like, oh god, I better delete all those pictures of me with swastikas off my Facebook.
Exactly, right. Yeah. Nobody knew about social media when they made this movie.
Yeah. And then the score kicks in, which is just it's just such a sweet synthy vaporwave score, and it might be in the top of some of the scores that are in any Troma movie, I would say. And it's just a lot of fun. And then
I'm just surprised there's enough score in this movie to fill a vinyl.
It's not a short vinyl either. It's pretty
I
decent
mean,
length.
the movie's not even that long itself.
Yeah, now I'm thinking about it. I wonder how.
I think they repeat a lot of those songs.
A lot of cues, anyways. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's one of the things I wanted to say is one of the missed opportunities related to this great song Haunted Garage had was, man, how great would it there have been if like the Surf Nazis had a house band, and they were like playing these songs in the movie.
There's
It's an idea for the reboot.
There's only one punk song in the whole movie. And it's in the
could have been a lot more
scene.
punk rock.
We'll get to that scene because it's pretty nuts. But
there's things to talk about. Yeah.
So we find out that there was a big earthquake in LA through an emergency broadcast, and then
one burning house,
which is like
one burning house representing an entire post-apocalyptic landscape.
And then you see Leroy and his mama leaving their house, which is in rubble, and he's taking her to an old folks home, which is
like, totally perfectly intact.
And that is one thing about the movie that like never sat right with me was it is the post-apocalypse, except for this old folks home, which it seems pretty nice.
And Smeg's house is perfect and immaculate. Nobody seems to care about the apocalypse outside.
Other than like directly on the beach.
I think the Surf Nazis were just homeless. I don't think they were victims of the apocalypse.
That's what I think. I actually have a audio clip that I'm going to play of Peter George talking about the different locations they got for the movie.
Well, the main body of the film itself was shot primarily in Huntington Beach, but also in Seal Beach and in Long Beach. Long Beach had some really devastated looking areas that were ideal for earthquake. The biker bar is in Sunset Beach, and then most of the rest of it where you see the oil rigs and the paintings along the walls is Huntington. The surfing was shot on the North Shore of Hawaii, and we considered doing it in California, but the size of the waves and the reliability of them at the time of year we were planning on doing it, which was January, it was an ideal time to shoot on the North Shore. So we decided to bite the bullet and do it, and I'm really glad we did.
We're now introduced to the other surf Nazis. We have Smeg, who's just kind of like the young kid in the crew, and he's a blonde guy, and he's riding on the back of Ava Braun's, they don't say her last name, but it's just Ava's motorcycle.
Mm-hmm.
And
is this before the scene where Dukey's working on
the next shot is Dukey, and he is they show him
banging some pots and pans in the yard, basically,
and he's making a hook with like a blowtorch for Hook. And then it's
he says, you can't rush art.
And he's like lighting his cigarette off of the side of like the flaming hot hook, and it's
but it'll make a real nice gash.
It's funny too, because like they definitely wear their influences on their sleeve in this movie, because Hook walked out of Clockwork Orange.
and Dukey's attire the whole film is definitely just his home closet, because I've seen him in other things in those same outfits.
That's
and
funny.
I mean, that whole coat that he's wearing all the time, very cool and stylish, and the earring, like, are you really wearing that on the beach and going surfing, dude? I don't think so.
Although it's funny because none of them look out of place hanging out, just being like, surf Nazis on the beach.
Yeah, but as surfers, I don't think they fit in at all. Maybe just Smeg.
Being from Colorado, the only experience I have of surfers is the film Surf Nazis Must Die and Surf Ninjas.
That's a warped perspective.
Right. But it's also intercut with Mama Washington going to the old folks' home. It's like,
Yes.
that's Mrs. Washington to you, honey.
Yeah.
And we see the bunker, as they call it, which it's graffitied all over, swastikas everywhere.
Yeah, they're homeless squat.
Yeah.
Like, why does Meg live in a nice house with this hot mother, which we'll get into later, and the rest of them just like live on the beach, I guess?
I always likened it to the film Back to the Beach that
I
has
never
like
saw it.
it's back. I love this movie. So it came out like 86 also, I think.
Great.
Stars Frankie and Annette, but like Fishbone plays a song in there,
nice.
and Annette sings, and then Pee Wee Herman sings Surfing Bird, and
Angelo Moore and Fishbone used to go see haunted garage shows.
Nice. But yeah, there's like this like crazy just punk surfer gang who looks like they're just like another part of the surf Nazis.
That's what they needed more of in this movie.
All these gangs in the movie, which we'll get to, are
Are
surf
not
Nazis,
gangs. They're
surf
all
Nazis
three people.
have the most gang
Yes.
members, and capping at 6.
They have 6 people in the surf Nazis, and every other gang is literally just 3 dudes in the same t-shirt.
Yeah.
Not so doing great with your gangs, dudes.
But so, and then we get the sweet title card that says sometime in the near future. And then we see Leroy. He's at the beach by some oil derricks. And I love all these shots that they get of the beach, where you see just like all like the oil plants and stuff in the background.
Those seem to be operational. What's going on with the apocalypse,
but
man?
it's still sweet looking. It's just such like a fun juxtaposition of like oh, it's supposed to be the nice beach, but here's all like these.
It's literally
factories
like
and
the
stuff.
only industrial things on the beach that they could film, I'm sure.
Probably. And then we see the surf Nazis driving around in this shark van. I have an audio.
Oh my
clip.
god, this fucking van.
Yeah, I'm gonna play an audio clip about this van.
Well, there was the surf Nazis had to get around here and there. Of course, we didn't want to get into anything too much, so they went in a van. Well, I had a van, so I thought, all right, well, I guess we'll use my van. So one day the art people came and they said, well, we need to get the van to get it ready for the film. So here's the keys. Go do what you have to do. Well, about 4 hours later, they came back. My white van has been painted camouflage. It's got swastikas all over it and these big P-38 Mustang shark teeth and a big fin on top. So, well, that was it. It was never the same again. But I did continue to drive it, however, after painting out the swastikas, and got some interesting looks, and was pulled over by the police quite often. They would laugh, and they just wanted to look it over and so forth.
Yeah, I love this van. I kind of want to drive it around myself.
I don't want to touch that thing.
Well, it got me.
But I
wondering-
love the teeth and I love the fin, and that's the kind of aesthetic that I want more of in this movie.
It seemed like same here, like they were almost there, and I think if they would have had a little bit more money
And a little bit more neon.
More people. Yeah.
Yeah, the colors in this movie are pretty dull for the 80s.
Oh, they are pretty muted, but I feel like it works. I love like kind of the smoky fogginess of this whole film.
And I will get into some smoke and fog later. Trust me, it's a big part of my whole spiel on this movie.
Yeah. So Mangla and Brutus come back from looting, and Adolf is just kind of pissed. He's like, what are we supposed to do with all this? And Dukey's like, why don't you have the Nazi youth have a yard sale?
Yeah.
And then we also get introduced to Brutus, who's like a muscly guy with a harpoon gun. And we see a hook surfboard, which look quote custom, just probably a spray painted surfboard for the movie. And they go out surfing, and one thing that always drives me nuts about this movie is whenever I like read reviews or anything, I always hear that they use stock footage, but they actually shot all of the surf footage for this movie.
In Hawaii.
Yeah, they use
real surfers.
It's crazy, but it all looks really good, and they use every
The surf
frame.
stuff
I'm
is
sure.
great. Yeah, oh, I'm sure, except for like that couple seconds in the deleted scenes.
Yeah,
But
but
it's just like the surf Nazis paddling into the water.
It's
because I'm sure Dukey can't surf.
I was gonna ask, do you know if Dukey has ever surfed?
I do not, and I doubt it. I mean, maybe in his youth, but not to my knowledge. Although one of the girls from the band, Dedra was her stage name, is living in Hawaii now and is a surfer and a photographer. So
there's
one of them.
One of the haunted garage can surf at least.
Yeah. And actually, Johnny Ho was I believe, a professional surfboarder before he was in Haunted Garage, like when he was
cool.
very young. So yeah, actually too. They should have had Johnny Ho in this movie.
That would have been sweet. Which is
but
funny.
Then he would have to be in the other gang.
Right, the samurai surfers.
yeah, exactly. Let's give him his own stereotype gang, please.
Yes, but it's pretty funny that like they went out and they had people in these swastika laden wetsuits like doing the Nazi salute, like going down waves. Like that's pretty nuts. Like to see something like that like is ever made.
I'll give Peter George credit for that one.
To ever just seeing that on film. And then you see Miss Washington just kind of back at the old folks home and just trying to just have some of her old life back, but not really. And she's young, like she's at an old folks home, but I feel like
she looks like she's in her 50s.
Yeah, like late 50s,
60s at the most.
Yeah. And she's playing 5-card stud with a bunch of old ladies. She's like, we got to put some life in you bitches.
That's exactly the quote I wrote down.
It's a very quotable movie. There's a lot of fun
there's a couple gems, and I'd say most of them come from Dukey.
It's actually true. He has some of the best ones.
He probably, I don't know. I'm just spitballing here, but I don't know how solid the script was.
Well, and nobody else has like the one-offs that he does. So
right. So you gotta wonder.
And just kind of knowing his personality from other things, it feels very him.
Yeah, exactly.
And then so Adolf, it cuts back to a campfire scene. All the surf Nazis just hanging out, and Adolf is talking at this campfire, and he's the Führer of the new beach. And
right at their, I guess, where they sleep at night, which is a rock.
Yeah.
Okay, guys, go home. The day is over.
From stuff I've heard was that some of the cast of the surf Nazis like did not like each other, and there was like tensions between them on set. Do you know anything more about that?
I do. Yeah, Dukey had a tension with, I believe it was the guy who played Adolf, because apparently he was very method actor, and he was just an asshole all of the time. And I believe he told me a story about they kept doing this scene where he's like shoving him or hitting him in some way, and he actually was like doing it for real, and Dukey was like said something about it after one of the takes, and someone on set was like, hey, that's not in the script.
That's crazy.
Yeah, they almost had a real deal fight on film at one point.
That's nuts. But yeah, they're all just dancing around the fire, and then it cuts into basically the Warriors segment of the film.
This is the very bootleg Warriors, because the Warriors had actually like an amount of people in each gang
where they felt like gangs.
Yeah there was more than 3. I'll say that much.
I feel like if all of the people in all of these gangs like were one, it would feel like one of the gangs from the Warriors.
No, exactly. That's 6, like maybe 12 people.
And all the gangs had pretty clever names, but they don't ever say them except for the samurai surfers. So I just kind of wrote my own descriptions for them.
Please.
So there's the hippie surfers, they're wearing tie-dyes. And then there's the skaters, the kids on skateboards, and the samurai surfers.
Oh, they had a name.
They were like
they used to be the rats, right?
Yeah.
Wait, I have it written down somewhere.
We'll
get there when we get there.
Yeah, they used to be called the skate rats, but then I have it written down too. They have some other name. But so we got the skaters, and then we have like bikers who you never actually see on a motorcycle for the entire film, but they refer to them as bikers. And then they do mention this other group as the pipeliners, but honestly, it looks like a bunch of like hipsters with cutoff shorts and mustaches who like just rode on their fixed wheeler bike and are gonna like drink your PBR. Like that's who this other gang looks like.
Yeah.
And so then Adolf shows up to this big meeting of all the gangs on a riding on a front of a forklift on a pallet.
Where did they get that?
They needed a good, introduction, I guess.
And here's Adolf's first big dramatic speech.
He cuts a bag of sand and then he gives Cyrus's speech from the Warriors. He's like, turf. What are we fighting for, turf? Well, that's what they say in the Warriors. And this, it's sand. What are we fighting for, all this sand?
Oh, so it is a direct parody.
I don't know if I would call it a parody. I would say it is a pretty blatant ripoff.
Gotcha, yeah.
And then he's like, if we all joined together, we all could rule the beach instead of, all of us fighting.
Which you should, because you all need friends.
I mean,
they all need some more friends. Their friend groups are pretty small.
I mean, at that point, they're just going to get beat up by people on the beach because they're outnumbered by vacationers.
I know.
And so the hipster guy, he disagrees. He doesn't want to be a Nazi, and so Blade shoots at him with his spear gun. So
I don't know why the Asian guys would want to be Nazis either. That doesn't make any sense.
Well, and it's funny because like I always thought it was weird that they're fighting the samurais. Like you would think that there'd be an axis,
right.
But I heard in an interview with Peter George, he's like, "Oh, I never thought about that."
Yeah, neither did I.
But it's like I always was like, you think they would be teammates or something. I was waiting for that parallel to happen at some point in the movie.
It's going to happen in the reboot,
right?
The requel
cuts back
to. And I gotta cut in here and say something about that scene because this is the first instance, I believe, of something. I have a new thesis about this movie based on the last watch, and I don't know if this is a popular opinion or not, or maybe I'm the first one ever presenting it, but there's some repressed homosexuality things going on in this movie, right? For sure. I think Adolf and Mangala may be secretly in love.
I can see that with the scene
first
that's coming
instance. Up. Yeah, and during the meeting when they were waiting for Adolf, we had one of the other rival gang members saying, "Where's your F-word boyfriend?" And that's the first instance of many of people referring to Adolf as a homosexual in this movie. And I think it's a theme that runs throughout, and I will point out the scenes where it does. That's why he needs to rise to power to battle his repressed homosexuality.
Display himself fully erect in front of his peers.
That's right. Yes. With his big knives.
In his switchboard. I need to go back and
rewatch it with that lens because oh boy, I got some evidence coming up. Well, that's the first one. And the thing about it is I don't know her character's name, but Dawn, Adolf's girlfriend,
Ava,
Dawn Waldsmith, she doesn't refute it. She just says something about him coming or whatever.
Yeah.
There was no like F you for saying that. It's kind of like we all know.
Yeah. And then we see the nurses, they back at the old folks home, they're talking about Leroy's mom and how she's just too much of a wild card for them to handle. They can't drug her because she won't eat the food she gives them. They're like, well, where's she now? They're like, oh, she's complaining about the view from her room, and then it cuts to Mama just cutting down a tree with a chainsaw.
Hey, there's the chainsaw from the cover, finally.
Right? It shows up.
Yeah, it does show up.
Just not where you expect.
I feel like all those Leroy Mama scenes like could have been their own movie. Like this feels like the two movies are just kind of meshed together.
It's funny because they also
and they're
feel
so white. Like all those scenes are so white,
like just like crystal clear and not all
and like no apocalypse, no sign of the apocalypse around there at all.
Not even like when they show that front yard, it's pretty clean,
pretty immaculate, except for that tree coming down. Those tree branches she's cutting down. Badass, by the way. Sure.
Yeah. And then we see Mangala making the switchboard, which is probably the closest we get to the chainsaw surfboard.
It's pretty cool, although pretty impractical to use.
I don't know how you would use that.
We kind of see them try to use it later on.
So there's a switchblade that pops out of the front of the surfboard.
Switchboard.
And right. And so then we see a bunch of kids of the Nazi youth stealing from people at the beach, and they're dropping it to Adolf.
Yeah, I have a note about this. This montage is weak. This is another missed opportunity for a great 80s montage. There's like 3 little clips of them stealing stuff. And I don't understand why the surf Nazis want to clear their beaches, because then who the hell are they going to steal from and eat from?
Well, and it's funny too, because it took me a little bit to get what's going on, because they're stealing from these people, but they're depositing it all in a trash can.
Right.
So it looks like they're just throwing.
Can have a yard sale.
It looks like they're just cleaning up garbage on the beach.
I know. And this could have been such a classic 80s montage, and they blew it.
And then you see like Adolf eating some of this watermelon that the kids stole. And then
because they have to steal for their food because they're homeless.
And then we go to the biker bar, which is the scene with the only punk song in the entire movie.
Do you know who that was?
I don't remember. It's in the credits, but it's you can hear it in the background. It's not really.
Yeah. Is it on the vinyl?
No, the vinyl's just all score.
Yeah, I figured.
But the
could have been Haunted Garage.
They should have had a song in there. There was a few, like you said, a few missed opportunities for music for sure in this movie.
Well, it's there for the reboot, Lloyd. These songs are sitting around waiting to be used.
And one thing I didn't really catch on to until my most recent watch of the movie was one of the ladies in the bar is just leading a guy around the bar by a noose around his neck.
Two guys.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, and I just never noticed that before, because you're watching.
I love the S&M group in the bar. More of that, please, Peter George.
And Eva goes to show up and collect her money from the main biker, and the biker is short, so she goes to.
And he says another gay joke about Adolf not being there.
Yeah, and so she goes.
Because everybody knows it.
I
it's
definitely
an open beach secret that Adolf is
there's
gay.
there's no closets in the bunker. It's just just a blown out
right
prolapse.
So what is he hiding from? Another gay joke. Yep.
So she goes
and some great scenes from Dukey. Want to slam dance?
What? No one wants to slam dance.
And he's always eating his knife.
Yeah. It's and then we get another funny like back and forth between Brutus and Mangala outside of this bar.
Right.
So where Brutus he's like, oh, you got a Freudian thing with your mama, and then Dukey's like better than having penis in me with that thing, and and he's referring to his spear gun. They return to the beach, and we see the samurai surfers, and the Nazis go to fight the surfers in the waves. And
wait, did we skip the weird rapey scene?
No, that's right now.
Okay, that's that now.
So Adolf tries to have sex with Eva, and
he can't because he's gay.
Well, there's one part that I thought was a reference not just to Hitler and Eva Braun's poop fetish is when Adolf just starts eating Ava's booty right there on the beach.
Right. Well, he can relate to booty because
yes,
I think that's the closest he can get to what he wants. And then of course, what was it? Smeg is being a little peeping Tom. So
yeah,
who is he watching? Is he watching Adolf or is he watching Ava?
You never
Think about
know.
it. Think about it.
The sex scene gets interrupted because the samurai surfers and the Nazis are fighting.
And for an exploitation movie, this is pretty weak of a sex scene. I
guess we should have said there was also some boobs in that biker bar scene, and this is all of
there could have been more boobs.
This is all of the nudity in the entire movie.
Sorry, guys. Yeah, the exploitation factor could have been really ramped up, but another missed opportunity. There's some boobs though, so it's not a total loss.
Yes. And then the
no dicks, just surfboards
in the requel.
Right.
Well, what's Adolf
now
really
that
surfing
Beyonce has defined the term surfboard?
Yes. And Adolf runs to the beach to stop the Nazis and samurais for fighting. They
have a really weak fight.
Yeah, where we see the switchboard sort of in action.
Yeah, he's kind of waving it around or whatever.
We see the blade pop, sticking out of the board, but trying to stab anybody with the front of a surfboard, as you can see from this, is just pretty impractical.
Yeah, they win, I think, anyways, right?
Yeah,
this isn't the scene where they didn't. The next one is where they kill the guys.
Yeah, this one's a draw, and they just take off. So
pretty weak action, Peter George.
But and then it goes to some Nazi use still in the lady's purse, and then Leroy steps in to stop him. But Adolf, this is kind of where you just despise Adolf the most, because before it's just like he's kind of a douche on the beach, and here it's like, oh, he's definitely leaning into the racist side of being a Nazi. Nazis aren't all just fun and games and surfing, as we thought. And so he's talking shit to Leroy, and then it's intercut with Leroy getting killed in the ocean in a different swimsuit, and Leroy's mom identifying his body and a funeral, all kind of going at the same time. And then it goes back to the Nazis, and they are grilling a gross pig or a slimy dog, or I don't really know, but it's like half of a slimy animal that they have over the fire, and I
guess some strange beach
post-apocalyptic
right.
It's the big dog.
the creature from Montauk.
Yeah. They eat it, and there's some infighting in the gang about killing Leroy, but
and I guess this is like plot.
Yeah, they're like, well, it doesn't
as much
matter.
as you can find some.
Yeah, they're like, it doesn't really matter. And then Mengele kind of questions if Ava's actually in charge of the whole gang. Just to kind of has some stuff
emasculating Adolf again.
And then it goes to the super long shot, which you were talking about.
Yes, and I'm wondering about this shot where the director went. I think he was on lunch. He just left the camera rolling.
I love this shot though, because it
is one of the more compelling shots of the movie.
It's
because you're like, why is this so long? Why is it just a silhouette on a tripod for like 5 minutes or whatever? Probably not that long.
They're just like arguing and fighting in the back of this warehouse, and it's orange and it's smoky, and it's just a really, I think it's a beautiful shot to look at. But
I'm wondering if that was intentional or if that was just a mistake.
Well, so listening to one of his interviews of Peter George, they wanted it to be kind of smoky in there, and what happened was they poured a bunch of gasoline on a tire and set that on fire, and it wasn't quite smoky enough, so they started just dumping gasoline on the ground, and set that on fire, and that seemed to do the
Jesus.
trick, except for the gasoline started to back up into the gas can, so it got knocked over. And they said that they could see, just Peter George was saying that he was just watching the gasoline roll out of the concrete on its way to starting a huge brush fire. And so they were acting in the scene, and it just was going on as he was like worried about setting this whole village on fire, this whole beach area on fire.
But Dukey definitely hamming it up in this one.
Yeah. In the background.
Yeah.
So, but it's, I love that shot. It's just such a interesting looking shot in the movie.
Very interesting.
And then we cut to Smeg at home with his beautiful mother in their nice suburban.
And sorry, in that scene, Dukey says, "Goddamn straight, fam," or something like that. So another possible reference to Adolf's homosexuality. Just have to throw that in there.
His tryst with Mangla, maybe.
Exactly. See, this is why I think they are secret
and then
lovers.
he's jealous of his relationship with Eva. Maybe.
Exactly. It all makes sense.
In the reboot, we'll play that up more.
That's right.
And then we see Smeg in this like really nice suburban home, and it feels very sitcom-y.
No apocalypse at all.
Yeah, like his mom is like cooking dinner, and then he's
his
like,
super hot mom, Bobby Breesy.
Yeah.
Or Reese, I'm not sure how to pronounce it.
I will go with either.
I like Breesy. It sounds more artistic.
Breesy, but not as greasy. And it's pretty funny because he's like, "Mom, can I borrow $20?" And she's like, "Okay." Stop hanging out with those Nazis.
This is actually probably my favorite scene in the movie. And it's another, I think it's another just one shot. And I wrote down some of the dialogue. Adolf, Godsmeg, Gregory, is that what that snotty Ricky James is calling himself now? They're the gnarliest gang around, Mom. Is Smeg? Oh, and I said, is Smeg the only one of them who has a home? And it seems like if they know Ricky, aka Adolf, like he seems a lot older than Smeg is supposed to be. Smeg is one of those 30-year-olds playing like a teenager, I suppose.
Yeah.
And don't be late for dinner.
I love that.
And scene. This this. If this was more of the what's the word?
It was like tone.
The tone of the movie, I think it would have.
I would say the nursing home scenes and the tone of this scene match.
Yeah, see, that's why all the home scenes and the beach scenes seem like two different movies.
All the beach scenes are played very serious and straightforward. There's no fun with the Nazis. They're a serious crew. So then the Nazis, they go to a pawn shop and they're just arguing money with the pawn shop guy, and Brutus steals a necklace from him. But Adolf has a good.
He gives him $1, doesn't he?
Yeah, he gives him $1 for like this $100 necklace. But Adolf has a great line. He's like, "Oh yeah, just sell him for this price." He's like, "Don't fuck with me. I'm an economy major."
Yeah, see, they have educations. They probably have homes. What's going on here? What happened?
As we've seen in the last few years, when things get a little bit rough, that people are more than willing to join a Nazi gang.
And that's why it's the perfect time for the reboot.
And then we go back to the beach, and Smeg is just trying to pick up some girls.
N-word alert.
Yes. So he's like, "Oh, we did away with," and then
word.
Trying to impress the girls, and Leroy's mama.
Finally, some chicks, some beach babes. Where are they?
These
the
are
rest of the time.
Beach
These
babes.
are the only two beach babes in like the movie, except for the bar scene.
Yeah, and I don't even know if that counts because they are not at the beach.
Right? What the heck?
But Leroy's mama hears that, and she slams him against some graffiti on the wall, which is the album
King
cover.
Crimson. Oh, which I think I had I have it on vinyl, I believe, but I should have brought that out. It's in the other room. I guess that was just there.
Yeah, I was listening to some of like Peter.
Yeah, I know
Drucker's
he talked about it
interviews,
on that interview.
and he was saying like there was like weird walls with that had graffiti, and there was some with murals, and this was.
So did someone paint that cover, or is that cover a picture of that wall?
I would imagine somebody painted the cover because
yeah, probably
because it's the cover for Court of the Crimson King, and that came out in the 70s.
Right.
So
yeah.
I find it hard to believe that some graffiti like that would be on the wall for.
It's a great looking imagery with him slamming him against the middle of that painting, but why is it there? It's an interesting question.
Yeah, it's. I'm glad it is though.
Yeah, it's better than the rest of the graffiti they have in this movie.
Although there is some weird like later on in the film, like they're hanging out like against some like painted up walls, but it looks like those posters that hang in front of like nail salons that haven't been updated from the 80s. So
yeah.
And then the Nazis go surf again, and Adolf goes to relax with Eva on the beach, and they see all of their surfboards are on fire. So, right. And then that pisses the Nazis off, and
there's that rad title song during their surf montage. I gotta just add that in there. Or there's some rad soundtrack stuff going on there.
Yeah, I highly recommend the vinyl for anybody.
Is it on Spotify?
It's not. It's like vinyl only.
Gotcha.
Which I was like going through
I don't know, man. There's no Haunted Garage on it.
That's true. Well, you could put together your own. Just get two turntables going side by side, and then
Well, I have an idea I can talk about later.
And so we then see that there's a guy tied upside down under a pier, and all these fishermen go to save him.
Right. What the hell did this guy do? Is he part of a surf gang? I don't think so.
I don't know, but he's there. So
he's there. Like, we've never seen him before. We don't know who he is. We don't see him again after this.
I always assumed he was just part of. So then the Nazis go. They rumble with like the hippies. So I always assumed maybe he was just part of that hippie gang.
No way. These guys were like old ass like.
Yeah,
these guys were not in surf shape.
the fishermen weren't, but the guy who was tied up might have been.
I don't know.
One of the gangs. None of them are really in surf shape.
No, that's true. But he's like really not in surf shape.
But yeah, so during like this Nazi rumble with all these beachgoers, Mengele bites the neck of one of the hippie surfers, and then
the Jesus scene, right?
Yeah, he's like, we don't need Jesus on the beach.
yeah. Like, and give me a break. Like that Jesus guy could have taken Dukey down in a second. So that's just highly unlikely. Even if that guy is stoned to the gourd, he was pretty built. Like Dukey is a small dude.
And then Hook kills somebody with his hook.
Finally.
And then they
kill montage.
Yep. And they burn down a beach house, and then all the other gangs they meet up about losing all their territory to the Nazis.
Oh, I have to say one more thing about the Jesus scene.
Yes.
Where Dukey says, "There's no room for Jews on this beach. It's our final solution." Didn't. Oh boy.
I love it.
I am gonna get canceled.
We're just talking about the film.
We're just talking about it.
It's in there from the 80s.
That's right, from the 80s. Disclaimer, trigger warning, everything. It's a trauma podcast. You know this already.
Yeah. If you've made it this far into the series.
If you watch Blood-Sucking Freaks, you're good.
Exactly. And then so Mengele, he gives Hook a new hook. Then we see Mama at the pawn shop, and she wants to buy a gun, and then the pawn shop guy's like, "Oh, here's like a nice like lady's gun."
Yeah, that thing like doesn't even fit her finger.
Yeah, and she's like, "I don't want a lady's gun. I'm interested in something that'll take the head off a honky at 20 paces." And so probably one of the best lines in the film.
yeah, that's a pretty good one.
And then and so then the pawn shop guy is just terrified of her, so he's like, "I'll give you all this free ammo."
Well, I think he sees the money she has in his hand, and he's like, "Holy shit, she's got some money to spend.
And
Where
then-
she got that money, we don't know, but
and money still matters in the post-apocalypse, but
right,
it does. and then he offers her some grenades. So okay, here we go.
Foreshadowing.
So those skater kids,
right,
they changed their name to the Earth Surfers.
that's right. Now we're the Earth Surfers, riders of the hard wave.
Yeah. and he's like, and Mengele's like, well, you still get information, right?
Yeah, and the only information they end up giving him is something's gonna go down real soon. That's it, man. T-shirts paid for, not so great information.
It's
You're gonna need some T-shirts. New
it
T-shirts.
did get me wondering though, like when this movie was shot and all these skater kids, like, is there any like pretty famous skaters in that crew that we just don't know about? Because like that whole Bones Brigade was going in that area at that time, and they like show up in like Gleaming the Cube and everything, and Thrashing, which is all shot at that same time.
Yeah, the singer from the Aquabats was in that.
Yeah, and Gleaming the Cube.
That's
and
right.
He's a big Troma fan also. He
really
he wrote a song called "I Love the Monster" based on the Shirts in the Toxic Avenger.
I do believe that. I did another podcast about the Aquabats to promote this documentary too, so go check it out. Hey homies.
Yeah, no, the Aquabats, they're big Troma fans. They'd play before they got the kids show. They would show clips from
Yo Gabba
classic,
Gabba.
Not Yo Gabba, they're the Super Show.
Show.
But even during the Yo Gabba Gabba days, they would show clips of Class of Nukem High during their concerts. So
There you go. Yeah.
just nerd out. It's like, oh man, I love all these things.
Yeah. Well, they're on tour again this summer, and I just bought tickets. Go see the Aquabats.
Yeah.
With
Hell
Bowling
yeah.
for Soup and Less Than Jake. It's going to be a scarific.
I'm down.
Yeah.
All right. Well, back
Where
to
were
Surf
we?
Nazis though.
Yes, the skate kids who maybe one of them is Christian from the Aquabats, but I don't think so.
I don't think so either, but he was an actor and a kid actor at that time, so maybe.
That's right.
So Mama's reading her Bible with her gun, and then Smeg is at his nice warm home writing a letter to Adolf, warning him to be careful. And then his mom just goes like stops him from sneaking out by standing outside his window
With a
like,
flashlight.
like smash
In a very, very well lit front or backyard, I would say too.
yeah.
And first of all, I mean, he looks 30. I imagine he's playing a high schooler, and his mom still tucks him into bed. Like, what is going on here?
Yeah, making sure she's okay. He's asleep.
Yeah, right.
So he can't get out of the house to warn Adolf that there's gonna be a big beat down. So we see
Something's going down.
So then we just see kind of all the different gangs. The samurais are practicing karate, the hippies are putting on sunscreen, the hipsters are just drinking, and
yes, each gang of 3 people are just hanging out doing their thing.
yeah. And Mengele shows up at the beach, and Adolf is relaxing, and then all the gangs start showing up, and then the samurais, they come in and they ambush the Nazis, but the Nazis they go at it, and they kill them, they slice their throats, and
Yeah, probably the most violent scene in the movie, although you don't really see anything, but
yeah, but it is funny how little violence there actually is in this movie. It works, but it's as violent as the Warriors, I guess. There's about as many
but
fight
the
scenes.
Warriors, I don't think it was supposed to be as much of an exploitation movie as this one is.
I don't know. It is pretty
Maybe.
gangsploitation, but
Yeah, it is a little bit.
And so
One of them's a great movie, and one of them's a movie with a great title.
I think they're both great movies.
Well, I commend you for that.
So the hipsters, they run off to the bunker, and the hippies, the Nazis go to the hippies beach, and they fight the hippies and they kill them. And then we see Ava stitching up Adolf from their battle. One of the hipsters, they throw acid in Brutus's face, and so
Yeah, surprise attack.
Adolf
Sneak attack.
goes to check on him, and I don't quite understand the geography of the bunker, but
Yeah.
so Adolf walks in a straight line to Brutus, and then hiding against a wall that is facing Mangla is one of the hipster guys, like Looney Tune pressed against the wall.
Yeah.
But like he would be staring straight at him, and he just like walks.
And wasn't Mangala like in the window at some point too?
Yeah.
I don't know what's going on.
They don't I don't quite understand the geography. It doesn't matter because this guy tries to attack Mangla. Mangla chokes him out, and then Hook chokes out another, and then Mangla stabs one to death. So
and then eats his knife again, right?
Yeah, they take these guys out, and then Adolf finally
and
shows
I love
up.
to say when Dukey's eating his knife at the end of that scene, the graffiti in the back has a word, the C word written across it with an arrow pointing to him. I don't know if that was intentional or not, but it is funny.
Dukey should get some stills of that so he could sign them at conventions or something.
Well, yeah, we need to get him into conventions. Well, that'll be the next phase.
Well, Adolf shows up first, and he shoots Brutus with the spear gun because he can't help him anymore. And
yes,
then
and Mangala is very like, oh, good job. You know, I don't understand why they're all in a gang together, because they don't seem to like each other at all.
Yeah, they don't, and it doesn't seem like they really make money.
No, they're not successful at all. Yeah. But he seems to respect Adolf for killing his supposed friend. Like, oh yeah,
you know, job. Maybe it's just hard to find a group of people that you could be openly racist with in the post-apocalypse.
That could be.
That's why they're all hanging out together. Yeah. Then they have another campfire scene, and we find out that a shark.
Great lines here.
Yeah, we find out that a shark got Hook's hand. So he's like, he got my hand right before I got the shark.
Yuck, 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 yuck.
And then they say they'll bury Brutus in the morning.
And Dukey, they ask about his memories or whatever, and he says, "They're all bad, man."
I thought, which is funny, like when we're talking about plot, I feel like that is one of the most revealing things of any of the characters in the movie, because
giving Dukey some character development. Good job.
Like, it's the only thing he has going for him is just hanging out with a bunch of people he hates on a beach. That's like the best thing in his life. So
sounds pretty bad. At least it's got his skull earring.
Yeah,
so he's got that
in his sweet jacket.
That survived the apocalypse.
Yeah. he fashioned it in the apocalypse. So then all the Nazis go to bed, and they're sleeping under a poster of Hitler where they like painted sunglasses on him.
Right. Yeah, I love that. That was funny. That's one of the good 80s moments of the film, I'd say.
Yeah. And then a grenade gets thrown into the bunker right next to
I
Hook's
have
head.
so much to say about this scene, so let me know when to just you describe the scene, and then I'm gonna rip it apart.
So there is a big explosion right next to Hook, and then just pandemonium starts. So go for it.
Well, there is a grenade, and which results in a couple deaths in the gang. From what I hear, there was supposed to be a plot point in this where when you see Dukey's character Mangla walking out from the grenade blast, he's holding his neck, right? But it's not supposed to be from the grenade. It's supposed to have broken the cage or the case of Adolf's pet spider, and that is supposed to have bit him. But apparently the actor who played Adolf was like so afraid of spiders, arachnophobic, I guess, that they couldn't shoot it. So that sequence doesn't make sense. And it's just as if the grenade hit him in the neck or something. That's thing number one. So that leads to Dukey's death.
Well, I will say I'm kind of glad that didn't work, because that would be very Home Alone.
A little too much, right?
Yeah.
But they do show that spider a couple times during the movie, and it's kind of like foreshadowing something that never happens.
That's pretty interesting, though. That does make sense.
And then, oh boy, I have some things to say about Dukey's death scene here.
That's pretty bold saying that it's a death scene.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, what would you call it?
A death
A
shot.
scene. Yeah. Right. Yeah, it's pretty far away again. And in every this tripped me out. So maybe you have some insight into this because you know a little bit more expertly about the different versions of this film. Every version I've ever seen, up until the Blu-ray, you can clearly see it's either, I always thought it was a boom mic being lowered into the shot, like very, very, very clearly, or it's damage to the film that looked like a boom pole. But in the new Blu-ray, there's so much smoke in that scene that it covers all of that up. So I went back to my DVD and on Troma Now, I believe they both have the previous version of it where you can clearly see this coming down. So is that a transfer thing? And this is a new transfer and it's not there? Because I always called it death by boom.
Yeah, I will have to watch those back to back because I didn't notice that.
Because I was like,
know
when I know one of Lloyd's lines when he's introducing these things is like the newly digitally restored, blah, 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 director's cut. And it's like, maybe they did go in and fill in some CGI smoke in the scene to hide that error. Either that or it was a bad transfer of the film there's some damage in the shape of a boom pole coming down into the film.
So I do know the early DVDs and all that were taken from the Tape Master, which if you go back and watch some of that, there's a lot of film noise and just
it very could be because
stuff like
I always
that.
thought it was a boom mic until this week when I saw the Blu-ray and I'm like, I don't see it. I was specifically looking for it.
Which I want to see
it's clearly more smoky.
I want to see the 88 films Blu-ray because I know there's compression issues on the Troma one.
Oh no,
where it's a little
it is
more
a pretty
crushed.
Beautiful print on here though. I'm imagining it's a
it is a new transfer,
right?
For sure, which it doesn't sound like it was supervised by Peter George at all, which is unfortunate. But
yeah, he seemed to know that the project existed after it happened.
Yeah, which I could totally imagine that's kind of happens at Tromaville.
Yeah, I mean, you got to re-release one of your biggest titles, right?
Especially on Blu-ray.
Yeah.
So then, Dukey just falls over dead. In the frame. And
then Adolf he's more emotive about this death than any emotion he's ever felt in this film, which also leads me to believe that there was a secret love affair between the two.
Yeah, he's upset, and Adolf and Eva they just go running off, and because they hear the motorcycle going, and
Mama's coming for you.
Yeah, Mama's on that motorcycle and she's going back to the nursing home. And
right, that's another thing. I don't understand the continuity of this because she's there and then she goes back for the gun. She didn't pack the gun with the grenades. Like, what are you thinking?
It seemed like it would have been should have had both.
Yeah, is it like oh shit, I forgot my gun, I gotta go
I mean,
home?
maybe
like,
that's why she was in the nursing home. Like maybe she's forgetful in her old age. Perhaps. And then the explosion was like, oh shit,
forgot the gun.
Forgot that next to my Bible.
Gun? So if we're back home.
So yeah, and then she goes and pushes the nurse over and she gets her gun and she just threatens the nurse and points the gun in her face and the Nazis show up. But when the first sight of a gun, the Nazis just turn
right. So they're following her at first, and then she's following them. Like, I don't get that either.
So yeah, as soon as they see the gun, they're like, "Fuck this, we're out of here." Like we're just like kind of pussy Nazis. We're not actually in it to win it. So they take off on the motorcycle, and Mama hops in the van, and they arrive in some sort of industrial boat junkyard place, and
a new location.
And Mama's looking for him on foot, and then
in these giant tubes. I don't know what they're made for, but
yeah, it's a cool location.
It is pretty cool.
Like it's like a part boat junkyard and part just like industrial scrap everywhere. And she's shooting at the Nazis, and so then the Nazis they see some surfboards on the beach, and they are from some surfers, and they steal them to escape. And they go off, and then the fisherman from earlier, Mama commandeers the fisherman's boat, and one of the fishermen is the director, Peter George, the one who's driving.
He's the driver.
And I actually have an audio clip of him talking about, and the producer Robert Janelle talking about this boat scene.
Yeah, that's me throwing the hot dog, and I play the fisherman who gets hijacked by Leroy's mama onto the boat. And part of this was purely practical from a standpoint that I had driven this jet boat and felt confident about being able to handle the stunt driving on it. Little did I know, of course, that actually playing the part in the movie of the boat driver and having to be held at gunpoint and drive the boat through a bunch of stunt sequences at the same time of directing the scene and taking a knife in the back created a real three-ring circus.
When Peter wrecked the boat, you know, we have all these shots to do, this big boat chase, and he's playing this fisherman who's driving this boat, this big, exciting chase. And I leave the set to go do something. And I come back, and he's got this really long face because it's his uncle's boat, or his nephew's boat. And he's like, man, don't get mad. 'Cause, you know, we have about $1.65 in loss and damage on this thing. He's wrecked the boat. He's wrecked the boat on the next to last shot. And not only has he wrecked the boat on the next to last shot, he's wrecked the boat before we have to do the infamous decapitation scene with the boat. And I won't give away how we finally got around that.
So it's nuts. I wish there was a commentary, because they talk about just briefly that they wreck the boat somehow.
Right.
And
yes,
and they don't elaborate on that. But the
and
boat
then they have
gets
to do the
wrecked.
decapitation without it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, so she's like circling the Nazis at high speed on this boat, and then she runs over Ava, decapitating her, and then Adolf throws a knife at the boat driver, and he gets it. So she shoots Adolf, and then a wave takes him out. We think he's dead, but he hops up on the boat, and then we get one of the most iconic shots of the film, where Mama just puts the barrel of the gun down his throat and tastes some.
I
of
mean, they
Mama's...
put it on the back of the cover.
Yes, and it's like in every trailer. Taste some of Mama's cooking, Adolf, and then she shoots, blood flies everywhere.
Kapow.
He falls over dead in the sea, and Mama leaves on the motorcycle. I have an audio clip I want to play about Lloyd talking about the Cannes premiere of Surf Nazis.
I'll never forget, we went to the Cannes Film Festival in 1987, and we presented Surf Nazis Must Die as if it was the #1 movie of the year. We had huge posters in the Carlton Hotel. We brought Peter George, the director, there. I think we had some of the actors. At any rate, at first, everybody was shocked that the beautiful Carlton Hotel should be defiled with Surf Nazis' huge billboards in front of their entrance. But then, people like Rex Reed began to comment on the film, and word of mouth got out that the screenings were very successful, and before we knew it, Surf Nazis Must Die became a classic.
All right, so what are your...
Can you believe it? Cannes.
It's kind of cool. I mean, this movie did so much.
I want to talk
Troma.
about that with Lloyd when I see him.
Yeah, I would love to hear, like, because this movie did a lot for Troma. It's it's
one of their big titles, I would say, right? Like,
yeah, it's considered,
especially of their pickup films.
Yeah, I'd say next to like Bloodsucking Freaks and Rabid Grannies, like it's right there.
Yeah.
What are your final thoughts on Surf Nazis Must Die?
Oh, this is a real dumb movie. But like I said, it's got a great title. There's some nuggets of gold in it. Again, go watch this again with the secret gay plotline in mind, because I think it turns it into a very different movie. And I'll say it a million times, Lloyd, you need to reboot this movie. It's time. All of these great ideas that were missed opportunities in this one, you can use for the next one. We got some Haunted Garage songs lying around, and it's best that they are played in character, because unlike their more recent song, the last song I believe they ever wrote in Haunted Garage on this record, Surf Nazis, They Must Die, which is clearly from the perspective of anti-Nazis. their previous song from the 80s is from the perspective of the Nazis. So, disclaimer, as far as I know, there is no Nazi affiliation or support from Haunted Garage. This is an in-character song, and they should use that because it's a good song. And the Surf Nazis need a punk band in their base for the next wave. And I mean, it is a very punny song, but in a way, I'm glad it never did come out because maybe it would be a bad look for them in hindsight. But in context, go check out this song on my Indiegogo. You can get it for the first time ever.
And you, before the movie, we heard a little clip of it, and I gotta say, it's a gem. I'm glad.
Yeah,
glad that that's
not a
something...
great quality recording, but the song itself, it's winner.
Fun.
It's a really good song.
And as far as like bootleg unreleased songs, it's something you want to hear.
Yeah, for your Surf Nazis fanatics out there and completists, your collection is not complete without this song.
And for me, as far as final thoughts on Surf Nazis, I think this movie probably plays better now than it did when it came out. If you love synthwave and just kind of slow burn with exploitation aesthetics and some Troma sensibilities, like this will definitely hit a lot of sweet spots for people.
For those retro nerds who are digging all these retro VHS culture horror movies, like this has got to be top of your list.
Yeah, it's I just love this. I always have loved this movie, but it's fun. And my final thoughts: fuck Nazis, Surf Nazis. Must die.
yes. From two white guys talking about Nazis on a podcast, we do not condone Nazi activity whatsoever.
Yeah,
neither of us fuck off.
Neither of us are in a Ford F-150 pickup truck recording our manifestos.
No, not at all. Just to make that extremely clear. In my pursuit of all things Dukey for this documentary, I had heard about a college film or short that he made called Freezer Dreams. This must have been from the 70s, and I know I had heard him talk about it, so I asked him about it, and he's like, last I saw it, some producer from Surf Nazis had it, and he said she. So I looked on IMDb, and I found the only female producer of Surf Nazis, Antonia Verna, who is also a makeup effects, and I think she was one of the extras in the bar scene as well. Reached out to her, and she actually has the only known copy of Freezer Dreams.
Whoa.
Shot on 8mm, like Kodak, like 8mm, never released or anything. And so I found it. It has been transferred. It is sitting on a hard drive waiting to be sent to me. I have not seen it yet, but thank you. Big shout out to Antonia Verna, who found a lost Dukey Flyswatter film, and because it's all Surf Nazi connection.
That's so cool.
Yeah. And she uncovered a photo for me that I think I'm gonna get a higher quality scan of it, but it's Dukey. Apparently it's at the premiere of Surf Nazis. I'm not sure where it premiered.
It premiered at the Egyptian in LA.
Right. Well, apparently this picture was from outside the Egyptian, I guess, during the premiere, and there's big news camera, I guess, interviewing Dukey Flyswatter. So if any of you Troma nerds out there know where this footage is, please, this is my mission to you. Find this footage.
I'm sure somebody out there knows.
I couldn't find it on YouTube or any mention of it. So somebody filmed the premiere of Surf Nazis Must Die, and there must be a news clipping out there somewhere floating around.
I do want to say this too about Surf Nazis, when we're talking about like weird just footage. So on the projection booth, when they're talking about Surf Nazis, they were playing audio from a commercial where you can order a t-shirt, and then you found it on YouTube, and I'll share it on the socials, but there's on the old media VHS tape, there was a way to get the Surf Nazi shirts, and they have very detailed instructions on how to order a t-shirt.
It's hilarious,
but it's awesome.
This is a time capsule for sure.
It really is. And
send your money to a PO box and hope that it comes.
and be sure to write down these exact things on this piece of paper.
Yeah, it's pretty funny.
It's,
and one of them is a shirt of the character Mangala. So
and that shirt, so it's like a black
sweatshirt, actually, I believe, or a long sleeve shirt of some kind.
It's a sweatshirt. It's a black sweatshirt.
And I want a Dukey sweatshirt.
They're so cool. On Poultry Guys, Lloyd's daughter Charlotte was wearing that Surf Nazi shirt. You can see her wearing it in the dance number at the end of the movie.
Great.
And all the big Troma nerds that were on set were like,
so it's
sort of like where'd you get it?
Yeah, it's sort of like a Dukey cameo in Poultry Guys then.
Right? Yeah, watch the dance number and you'll see that Surf Nazi shirt.
and I have to add, this is not my pairing, but as we were talking, I remembered actually the first film I believe that Dukey ever filmed for was a surf movie called Big Wednesday.
Oh, geez.
If you remember that movie, it had Jan Michael Vincent and Gary Busey and a young Robert Englund. Yeah, his scene was cut out, but he was like an extra in that movie, and it was a surf movie.
That's awesome.
So there's some good trivia for you. And more bad kissing in the deleted scenes. So further proof of Adolf and Ava's relationship being FAKE, fake.
Yeah. Alrighty. Well, it is Surf Nazis night, and you and me decided to do something fun. We're gonna have some double Dukey going on.
Double Dukey time.
So what is your double Duke for Surf Nazis Must Die?
Well, I chose Star Slammer, The Escape, aka just Star Slammer, aka Prison Ship, aka The Adventures of Tara, Prison Ship, Star Slammer.
Poacher Style B has only 25 seconds remaining, so knock yourself out.
For these acts of insanity, I sentence you to the prison ship Vehemence, where you will live in chains for the next 7 years, or until you die, whichever first occurs.
So this is a movie from Fred Olen Ray that came out in, I guess, 1988, but I imagined it was filmed before then. And it has a lot of parallels to Surf Nazis Must Die. In fact, if you listen to the Projection Booth podcast, you would know that I believe this was the first movie Peter George ever worked on.
Yeah.
I think I had a note in here of what
he's the production assistant.
Yeah, whatever the fuck that means, right?
He probably got coffee and helped sweep the floors.
Yeah. So this is a Fred Olen Ray movie. The Dukey actually wrote this, and he was in it. I think there's a picture of him on the Blu-ray with some crazy pink hair and outfits going on here because he was dating the costume designer at the time. So he got all the best stuff. During, I guess, on set of this movie, Peter George decided he was going to make Surf Nazis, and he auditioned Dukey for the role while they were filming this movie. They also share, Don Wildsmith is also in this. Yep. Bobby Breesy is also a guest star in this. So a lot of the same cast members, a lot of the same crew carried over. It's a women in prison in space movie. And if you want to share another exclusive that's available on our Patreon for the first time ever, like Surf Nazis, I found a song that Haunted Garage wrote, and this is an actual full band recording that he wrote for this movie called Space Angels in Cages. Again, it was never used, it was never recorded, never released. Another missed opportunity because, oh boy, the soundtrack of this one is not very good. But it's a very colorful movie. It's a fun movie. It's really stitched together between B-roll from different projects that Fred had access to, leftover sets from various like Roger Corman things. There's a monster that they borrowed from the Deadly Spawn. Like it's just whatever they could find. They kind of threw it in this mix, and it's a lot of fun.
I
Have you seen it?
I haven't had the chance to watch it yet. I watched the trailer. I'm looking forward to it because
John Carradine.
It looks ridiculous. But I
It's pretty fun.
I did go through and find some Troma connections.
Good
With this.
Besides the ones we've already talked about.
Yeah,
like
so
Don Wildsmith. And...
Yeah, so it's weird that Fred Olen Ray only directed one Troma movie because he's done a ton of stuff. But he did produce another one called Demented Death
Such
Farm
as
Massacre.
Hollywood Chainsaw Hookers, one of his more famous ones.
That's
also
a great
premiered
movie.
at the Egyptian and also featuring Dukey Flyswatter.
And has Linnea Quigley doing a sexy
Linnea
chainsaw
Quigley
dance.
and Michelle Bauer. Michelle Bauer, of course, is in my documentary. Thank you very much.
And let's see. So Ross Hagen, he's wrote and directed and acted in Merchants of Death, and he acted
wrote
in
and directed, huh?
And he acted in Angel's Wild Woman, which is Al Admonson movie, who also Satan Sadist.
Gotcha. That makes sense.
One of the actors, John Carradine, he was in Monster in the Closet. Bob Ivy did stunts in Tuesday Never Comes, Merchants of Death, and Witchcraft. John McCollum, who is the composer of Surf Nazis, did the makeup in Star Slammer.
That's okay.
So, yeah,
so
I
there
don't.
you go. Another
That's
connection
kind
there.
of a weird crossover. Like I could see maybe a lighting guy doing makeup, but the music guy, that's kind of funny. But let's see, a bunch of people worked on Wizards of the Demon Sword just because
that's Fred Olen Ray, isn't it?
Yeah. One of the
wait, was that a Troma movie?
Wizards of the Demon Sword, yeah.
So wait, he did. That's another Fred Olen Ray Troma movie then.
Yeah. George Scott, who was a grip, was the producer of Redneck Zombies. And
I have that on VHS, not the new one, the old school one.
Yeah, I have an old VHS I took from when I worked in a video store.
Nice.
I took my rental copy.
There's a new like shiny version, right?
I want to get it. It looks pretty sweet.
Yeah, it does look cool.
And then the special effects, which you said were stolen from Deadly Spawn.
One of the creatures was, yeah.
But they also did special effects in Night Beast. The Don Dohler film, which is awesome. And I actually did Night Beast a few episodes back. So
and there's a really great Good Bad Flicks episode on YouTube about this movie. You should really check it out because it really breaks down like where he took all of these things, and the new Blu-ray, well, not new, but the Blu-ray version has a commentary by Fred Olen Ray, which is always great. Lots of insight.
He's
and we just got an interview with him for our documentary, so he will be
exciting.
in The Life and Slimes of Dukey Flyswatter and Haunted Garage.
He's quite the character.
Oh,
Fred
yeah.
Olen Ray. Yeah, like kind of
and
like
essential to our story.
Kind of like how Lloyd's just like an off the wall filmmaker character. Fred Olen Ray is in his own right,
and
like,
they will both be in this story. So check it
exciting.
out, please. Although I haven't seen his interview yet. Also, it's waiting on a hard drive for me.
Yeah.
Along with that student film.
So my double Dukey, I decided to go post-apocalyptic route with the sequel for another film. I went with the 1989 Donald G. Jackson film, Rollerblade Warriors Taken by Force.
After the great upheaval, when nature and man conspired against all life, holy crusaders arose from the dust with mystical abilities to heal the afflicted, to battle those who kill for the precious remnants of a world laid to waste. The Cosmic Order of Rollerblade sends her bravest warrior, Karen Cross, to escort Gretchen Hope, an innocent psychic, from a mountain monastery to the fiery hell below. Gretchen knows nothing of love or war, but she can see all that was, is, and will be. She will teach Karen and her sisterhood to protect the afflicted and redeem the damned. Some survivors were driven mad by the times, but they were no less dangerous. The only cure for their malady was the blessing of the sword. Karen Cross wields the cutting edge between life or death. She alone provides safe escort for Gretchen Hope. But they must survive Hell's Anvil and me.
Yeah.
So
what a film this is. I mean, look at that cover right there.
The cover is amazing. It's
Pretty good
kind of like
cover.
The Graduate, but with a thong and a samurai sword. And they're wearing roller skates. So this is, at that point, I only ever
I've never actually seen that one. Michelle Bauer's in that, right?
Yeah, and the original Rollerblade I saw a long time ago on VHS, and I've always was interested in the sequels. So Rollerblade, post-apocalypse, very DIY filmmaking sensibilities, and it's about like these nuns that are on roller skates. There's not actually roller blades, but
right.
They all fight these weird kind of like mutant type, humanoid type people, even though they all just like look like regular people.
Just to relate this to something people might know from him, he did do Hell Comes to Frogtown, so
probably the director's most famous movie, Hell Comes to Frogtown,
starring Roddy Piper.
It's kind of nuts. Like there's 4 or 5 Rollerblade movies, and they're extremely hard to find. I personally like the 2 that I've seen. They're not easy watches by any stretch of the imagination because they're very rough. But
they're pretty rough. Yeah, from what I hear, the estate of Donald Jackson, he did not want these ever to come re-released. So that's why there is not DVDs and Blu-rays of these. He was trying to bury these movies, I believe.
It's too bad because like they're just so weird.
They're weird. They are definitely a product of their time. They're very rapey.
Yeah.
Trigger warning.
And I can't even like really tell you what they're about. Like it's a post-apocalypse, like just wandering
I don't
through
think
the
it has any plot really.
Yeah, wandering through the wasteland. There's TNA.
Trying to find a virgin.
Yeah.
For a monster.
And the good guys are these nuns who wear bikinis and roller skates and they fight people.
I accept this as my future.
And there's 4 or 5 of these movies, and I love the ones that I've seen. And if anybody from like one of the retro labels like Vinegar Syndrome or Severance listening, please
I talked to at least one of them who has tried to do it. So yeah, that's the story I hear. Is I don't ever expect these to be re-released.
I don't. That's why I still have a VCR.
Yes, it's videotape. Yeah, and I have some things to say about this. First of all, I got some great interview footage with Johnny Psycho, who plays the guy with the big mohawk in this movie, who says boink a lot. He used to be Dukey's roommate, and they met because of this movie. They lived together. I think Dukey, it may have been when I think he broke up with a girlfriend and he was living in Jimmy Maslin's attic writing Blood Diner for him. And he got an offer to do this movie, and he's like, hey, Johnny, I should just move in with you so we could drive to set every day or whatever. So that happened. He's also in Hell Comes to Frogtown, I believe, somewhere in there. The big monster in this movie was made by Cleve Hall, who was one of these guys, and he had a whole series Monster Man on Sci-Fi, along with Johnny Psycho as a character in that, and his brother Kenneth J. Hall, who wrote Nightmare Sisters and has done all sorts of stuff. Cleve,
I don't think I realized that his brother made Nightmare Sisters. That's cool.
Yeah, Kenneth J. Hall, and it's a tragedy because he died, not I don't think of COVID, but during the pandemic.
Yeah,
he was gonna be interviewed for the documentary. He has a big history with Dukey and Haunted Garage and doing their early special effects. In fact, Haunted Garage used to use the monster from this movie in their shows. So this movie is just like all sorts of connections to Haunted Garage. Yeah, Johnny Psycho would end up working for the band as well, mostly as a roadie, and he's actually cited as the reason why their music got more intense, because he introduced Dukey to the Misfits, and ever since then their little bluesy garage rock band, the tempo went way faster real quickly, and that's why we have the classic Haunted Garage from the Possession Park era, and it's because of this guy Johnny Psycho, who is a makeup guy and a Hollywood character, and he's also in this movie called Game of Survival that's going to be put out soon by Culture Shock releasing. So awesome. I think I hit all my Haunted Garage connections on this. There's a lot of them. And I asked Michelle Bauer. The story goes that she was asked to do this and she refused because it was too rapey. But when I interviewed her, she doesn't remember.
Yeah,
that sounds about right. Sure.
I did find some Troma connections on here.
Oh yeah.
So the director, Don Jackson, he was the director of photography for the second unit on Class of Nukem High Part 2, and also Twisted Justice. And someone who did makeup for Nukem High 2 or 3 also did effects for Haunted Garage. I'm not sure who. Oh, cool. I don't know their makeup guys off the top of my head, but that's awesome.
I mean, I could list some of the Haunted Garage guys, but I don't know if they were involved in the film or not.
Not without really looking.
Yeah, exactly.
But let's see. Elizabeth Caitlin, who played Gretchen, she was in Lloyd Kaufman's movie Waitress, which is awesome.
Wow, the early comedy days of Troma.
Yeah,
slapstick comedy, pre-Toxie.
Which it's always kind of fun to see, like when they go back that far.
Yeah, real goofball stuff.
Susan Solari, who played Cheryl Cross, she was in Nukem High 2 in the Squirrels Gang. Another one of the slave girls, she was a bald subhumanoid in Part 2 of Nukem High. We have some more Wizards of Demon Sword crossover. Then we had Lisa Toothman, who is Slave Girl 1, who is in Witchcraft number 3, and
Great.
Greg Miller, who is Traitor number 2, was Slick Dick in The Killer Nerd. So,
wow. And if you're just a film nerd and you want to watch some weird post-apocalyptic stuff filmed in some of the same locations as The Running Man, this is your movie.
It looked like they were like, what's that? Because they filmed like a lot of Star Trek in that area too, and I think the Bat Cave,
Bronson Cave.
Yeah,
right?
It was Bronson Canyon, right?
Bronson Canyon, that's right. Yeah. I don't know if they used that for this, but it's possible. That ends up in a lot of those movies with Dukey. He gets his head ripped off by the Bronson Canyon in Phantom Empire by Fred Olen Ray.
That's awesome.
The same head from Nightmare Sisters.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
But well, cool. I think
another movie with Michelle Bauer and Dukey Flyswatter.
And Sybil Danning.
Yeah, and Sybil Danning.
He is quite the legacy, and I'm super excited for the documentary to come out.
Thank you. Me too. Well, let's finish it. Let's
get it finished and funded.
It is about the midway point in creating it, I would say. And this is the point where I need your help. Tell all your friends. Let's get that Troma bump.
Tell everybody where they can follow you on the socials and the doc on the socials.
Well, you can find everything collectively at dukeydoc.com, DUKEYDOC.com. I have to spell it out so you don't go spelling it like that Green Day album cover. DUKEY is his name. At Dukey Doc on Instagram is where I'm most active. I have a Facebook group called The Life and Slimes of Dukey, Flyswatter, and Haunted Garage. I am Kevin Vonesper. I am very easy to find. All these things are very easy to find. Check it out. Check out the trailer. Give me all your money so we can make some highbrow art based on lowbrow material, right?
Yes.
Something like that. You know, it's already a star-studded cast. I got members of Haunted Garage, Green Jelly, Guar, the Dwarves, the Adolescents, Brink Stevens, Michelle Bauer. We're getting Lloyd Kaufman, Fred Olin Ray, Bill Mosley is in this thing. Just like Carl Crew from Blood Diner and CIA, which we talked about a lot. Carrot Top from the Chicken Heads. I mean, you name it, they're in this thing. So check it out.
Yes, check it out.
It's worth supporting, please.
Heck yeah. And then
get some cool stuff. At least get a sticker. Come on.
Get a sticker. I'm gonna get a sticker.
$5. I mean, that's a good badge of honor for supporting this documentary project.
Yes. And as a special treat, we're going to close the episode out with a song from Slender Man and Other Strange Tales by Haunted Garage, the last song that Haunted Garage had recorded, Surf Nazis, They Must Die. And then everybody out there, you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Lego Larry. You can follow the show on Twitter at Talkin Troma. And as always, stay traumatized.
Bitches, the mind can't fly girls. Megala's asshole, the bringer of death. Fire in his eyeballs, plague on his breath. Surf Nazis, they must die. Surf Nazis, they must die. Surf Nazis, they must die. Neo-Nazi punks are up to nothing good. They're building concentration camps in Hollywood. He's cutting off a bra, now kiss the swastika. Grab the van and hit the strand and skateboard through the rally. The waves are over 20 feet from OT to the valley. The samurai is gonna die, their kids will be our slaves. Sino waves and misbehaved, now they're in their graves. Naughty Nazis doing speed, they dance this mess around. They haven't got a single clue of trouble coming down. Murder isn't fun and games, no, it's a deadly sin. They've gone and crucified their one and only kin. Surf Nazis, they must die. Surf Nazis, they must die! Serve Nazis! They must die! Never underestimate a wounded mother's pain and hate. Adolf and his racist brats have instigated payback time. They call her Leroy's mama. She ain't no Aunt Jemima. III, it pretty much wiped out the coastline. But after a while, I went down to see if the hot dog stand was still there. And it was, but Shlomo wasn't there. Instead, these goons with shaved heads and suspenders were running in. I said, hey, how about a Polish sausage? And they said, Poland? Man, we wiped out Poland. I said, okay, how about a Hebrew national dog? And they said, Hebrew national? No Jew dogs here, buddy. They got me mad. They got me so mad I wanted to shout. You know what I shouted? Surf! Nazis! They must die! Surf! Nazis! They must die! Surf! Nazis! They must die! Hand grenades and chainsaw waves and Nazis all like Poland. The California coastal line looking like a no man's land. It's now a gangster's turf. Too bad that they can't surf.